you're all riding in is slammed by wind and sleet and snow. You've already dropped into atmosphere, making your approach, following a landing beacon that you picked up the moment you dropped out of hyperspace and came into orbit around this planet that you've come to. But there's no time to reflect on that because the wind and the ship is being buffeted by the extreme weather. It's snow, it's dark, it's night. Half the instruments on the control panel in the cockpit are gone. You barely can get any readings on what you're seeing. And those in the back hanging on to the troop hangars, no other seating, no other restraints, being buffeted around. It's fast. It's violent. If you don't hold on tight, you're going to get hurt. Those of you in the back, hanging on, looking at each other, you can't see Vilra, your friend, the Itochi pilot, sitting up in the cockpit because she's above you and in front of you, but you can hear her. You can hear the sound of her voice and her breathing as she struggles with the controls of the ship. It's not responding well, and every time the ship gets buffeted, the ship shakes. Sledge, the salvager turned escapee, along with the rest of you, with his horribly burned one side of his face from an old military accident, does not look good. He's not dealing well with the turbulence and the violent shaking, and he's struggling to hold on to his hanger as he's also struggling to hold a hand over his mouth. Two Pint, our maintenance and beautification droid, you are plugged into the ship, helping with controls, helping with power readings. The ship is losing power. Vilra is doing her best to keep the ship flying, but she needs help. Two Pint, you need to help determine, is this ship flying or is it falling? I need you to make the first roll of the game. You're going to roll your Starship Repair roll, which if you don't have, falls under technical. Two Pint, this is a difficult roll, which means the difficulty number starts at 16. And remember, you can use a character point with this roll if you wish, and one of your dice needs to be a wild die, which can explode on a 6 if it rolls it.
Okay. So for technical, Two Pint has... This is going to be a 4D plus 1, so I get to roll 4. One's... You are my wild die. Okay. Okay. Didn't explode, so that's 6, 9, 14, 17... 23.
You drain as much remaining power from all the other non-vital systems as you can. What little shields, what little power to the weapon systems, everything you can to the engines, so that Vilra hopefully has enough power to keep the ship flying. And as the moment you drain those power systems to reroute power in, your Scomp Link twirling rapidly as you're accessing the ship's systems. So many of the systems are failing, some of the systems are offline, finding power wherever you can. And then you hear it, because Vilra doesn't see it, because her controls are half missing and even her sensors are barely functioning, but you hear it over the roar of the wind, over the buckling of the metal of the dropship. You hear the distinct roar of a twin ion engine starfighter as an Imperial TIE fighter roars up alongside you in the midst of this storm, flying blindly at high speed through the night. The comms, Vilra, in the cockpit flare for a moment as there's an attempt at communication, but the systems are starting to go down because Two Pint just drained every other non-critical system to the engines, so you have enough power to keep flying. You can't respond. You can't hear what they're saying, and you certainly can't respond to their transmission. You hear them, you see them a second out of the cockpit, blowing snow, sleet, wind, black sky, it's almost invisible. That gray finned ship for a moment on your starboard, and then it's gone again as it disappears into the snow, was presumably that pilot struggling to keep up with the wind as well. TIE fighters are small, tiny ships and easily buffeted around by that. by those strong forces. There was a landing beacon signal. You were homing in on it. You've lost it again. The storm's interfering with what little sensors you have left. You need to get the drop ship down. You need to land. But you have to decide, Vilra, is this ship about to land or is it about to crash? I need you to make a space transport's piloting roll to try and guide the ship in successfully. This is also a difficult roll, which means the difficulty starts at 16. Make sure you put a wild die in there. It can explode on a 6 and it can complicate on a 1. And you can use a character point if you need to before you determine if the result is what you want.
Okay. It did not explode or get a 1. It's a 14.
Okay. You hear the sound of the TIE fighter coming in closer again, and then in the midst of the blackened, snow-swept sky, a flash of green as 2 laser cannon shots fly past the ship as they're attempting to ground you or drop you. It's not clear which, because you haven't had any communication with them, but they're obviously not taking kindly to the fact that you're ignoring their communications and their instructions. The TIE fighter shoots, but it doesn't hit the ship, but it gets really close. And those of you inside in the back in the troop hold can hear the engine of the fighter and can hear the sound of the laser cannons as they go off. The ship buffets hard again, rocking the inside. Sledge loses his hand on the hangar and slams into the side of the interior of the ship. He hits hard, hits the floor plates, and doesn't get back up, and he seems to be struggling. I want Tanal and Gila to make a strength check, please, to hold on to your hangars as Vilra is starting to lose control of your Republic dropship.
Oh boy. Got a 4.
Can I help?
I exploded. 10, 15.
2 Pint, if you disconnect now, you can attempt to use your repulsor to flash over and break Gila's fall as she loses her grip on the hangar. You will no longer be able to assist Vilra with any of the ship's systems if you do this.
I have to stay plugged in. I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry.
Bye.
Gila slams against the far side of the troop hold on the opposite side from where Sledge hit the wall. Gila hits the wall hard. She does not look like she's doing well. She's on the ground now, not being restrained, not holding on to anything. Both of them, their bodies are shuffling and bumping as Vilra's struggling to keep the ship up. And there's now, you can feel that as the hangars all kind of sway as the dropship starts to descend. And it's descending quickly. And it's not clear if it's descending quickly with Vilra in control.
Can I try to, like, grabbing on to the hangars and going, like, one by one, almost like monkey bars, try to, like, make my way to the back of the hold and just reach an arm out for Gila and just say, I'll hold on, you just hold on to me.
Absolutely. Make a strength check to essentially pull Gila to you or hold her in place so she's not going to continue to hit the insides of the ship every time it buffets.
Okay, and I would like to use a character point because my strength is actually not that good. I exploded again. Okay, all right, we're in business, kids. Oh, I can't do math. That's another 15.
Okay. You hold on to her tight. Gila is not looking at you, but you can see that Gila has some blood on her head. From either her head or her face somewhere where she hit the wall hard. She's making some noises. She doesn't sound like she's doing great. Sledge is making some noises on the other side. He doesn't sound like he's doing great. And no one is restraining Sledge. And so every time the ship buffets, every time the ship drops, he slams again into the floor. He slams again into the wall. Vilra, you're coming in. The TIE swoops in again, but then it disappears into the snow. There is another double green shot of laser cannon fire as it shoots again at the ship. But the tie is like, when you see it briefly in your peripheral vision, is swaying in the wind like this, so it's having difficulty staying on target, and then it gets swept away into the snow and the darkness, and you lose sight of it again. But the ship's coming in fast. The snow, it's snow blind. You can't get your sensors. You don't know your distance from the landing beacon, and it's coming in, and then suddenly black sky turns to dark gray as rock and snow fill the view screen as you are now coming in. You have one last chance to make another difficult piloting roll to keep the ship from just smashing into the side of the mountain.
Okay, am I about to end the episode before it even starts, or? Okay, come on. 16 exactly.
There's a whole bunch of sounds from the engines as Virwa does whatever she can to both slow the rapid descent of the ship, but then also trying to adjust the angle of approach as the nose starts to level up as she tries to bring it in. Republic dropships don't have landing gears. They just come in hull hard to drop off troops in fast moments, scrape along, and then take off again. And so scrape along is exactly what Vilra does. There's a horrible rending sound as the dropship hits the ground hard. It bounces off the ground before coming down again and grinding on the rock again. You've got Gila. You keep her from getting jostled too violently. No such help for Sledge as his body flies up for a moment off the floor plate and then slams down again. There is the sound of metal hull on stone as the ship is now careening and sliding up against the ground. You can't fly a ship on the ground, Vilra. You're along for the ride at this point. And so you can see snow, you can see rock pass, you can see there's some kind of rocky face in front of you. And then there is an impact where one of the wings catches on an outcropping, snapping. There is the sound of rending metal, and suddenly the stale recycled air that has been inside this dropship for the many days that you've been flying in hyperspace is suddenly violently replaced by cold rushing air, snow, sleet blowing inside the hull because part of the wing has torn away from the hull, exposing the ship to the outside. It slides at an angle, and then the dropship sort of slams into a rock face, jolting upwards and then back down again, jostling everyone back down, giving Sledge one more roller coaster ride before he slams in the deck plates one more time. Vilra, you're in the cockpit, you're restrained, but the restraint doesn't stop you from slamming forward into the restraints. Your hands and wrists banging up against the control panels as the ship smashes into a violent sudden stop. There's a crash as the cockpit is broken, and again the sort of stale recycled air of the cockpit is suddenly replaced by blowing snow and wind on your face as your vision's getting blurry, things are getting dark. All of you have been hit either the ceiling or the floor or something else. Two Pint is ejected from the scomp link and skitters across the back of the troop compartment. Because it is such a sudden stop that nobody can hold on tight enough to prevent themselves from getting jostled from that. In the distance, you think you hear the sound of the roar of a TIE fighter engine as it flies somewhere overhead, lost in the snowstorm. Your vision's blurry. It's fading to black. The engines are still powered on, but winding down, but making very, very unhealthy sounds that as they took the damage from the land. What little lights are on side the ship are starting to flicker and extinguish one by one as the last of the power is drained from the system. You're on the ground. You're whole, but that doesn't mean you're intact. The ship has taken severe damage, but you've made it to your destination. Welcome to the Planet Fest. And welcome to everybody to the first episode of Quadrilateral Frostfall, our new Star Wars actual play series. Welcome everybody to Dungeon Scrawlers. This is your home for stories by some of your favorite authors and storytelling by some of your favorite players. We are very proud to bring you our new Star Wars Actual Play series. We are playing Star Wars the Role-Playing Game, 2nd edition as originally published by West End Games. If you had a chance to see our first series, Star Wars Quadrilateral, we thank you so much for joining us again. And before I introduce myself and my amazing players, I just want to take a moment to tell you about our sponsors. Both of our sponsors make dice. Both are awesome in really different ways. In a realm where most warriors use plastic, light weapons, Norse Foundry specializes in metal dice. When you roll them, it feels like you are skillfully smashing the monster horde. Norse Foundry offers other cool gaming accessories as well, and you can find their store and more about them at norsefoundry.com. Phoenix Dice is named for the creature that rises from the ashes, because they all use recycled materials for their dice. They are always designing and testing multiple types of recycled materials for your enjoyment, raising dice from the ashes and onwards to epic adventures. You can find their dice and accessories at phoenixdice.com. My name is Jason Collins. I am the game master for Quadrilateral Frostfall. I am a published comic book writer, tabletop role-playing game designer, actual play streamer, and I did a little fiction writing back in the day as well. You can find all of my socials and all of my links to all of my work on Linktree at digital_Collins. Barnaby?
Hi, everybody. My name is Barnaby. You can find me on the internet at that's_Barnaby. I am a professional TTRPG illustrator, as well as I'm on actual plays. I'm glad to be back. And just a fun community member in the space. Glad to be back.
Mara.
Hey everyone, my name is Mara. You can find me in your local coffee shop writing my thesis and probably crying, but also on the internet at College of Lore Dropout or just Lore Dropout. I don't remember which social media has which handle. You can guess. And you can also find me on Starlight Tales, a queer and trans-led actual play channel that's all about space. Nice.
Diana.
Hi, I'm Diana. You can find me most places on the internet at Sapphic Strigonona or just Sapphic Striga or any of the places that Mara just listed. I'm over there on Starlight Tales as well. And in the near future, depending on when this comes out, you can find some of my writing for the TTRPG Story Bake. Go check it out. It's a good time if you like baking, if you like adventures, if you wish that every adventure in your in your tabletop book came with a recipe. This is the game for you. So I'm writing about peep jousting.
Very fun.
May.
Hi everyone, my name is May. You can find me on the internet at Maybe Mayhem. And I'm doing some other actual plays. This is the big one on my plate right now, but keep on my socials for others. You can also find me on my podcast that I do with my friend Mary Kate called Socially Plagued. It's not TTRPG related, but we do complain about stuff and it's just a good time.
When you come to, it's hard to know whether you feel the pain first or the cold. You can hear the howl of the wind. Those of you that are close enough to any of the openings that are not hatches that have been torn open inside the hull of the ship can feel the snow blowing in as well and hear the roar of the wind outside. There's almost no lights, almost no power left to the ship. A few indicator lights on a few of the panels are still there, but there's also a couple of sparks in the back. Something's broken, something's sparking, exposed wires, but there's not much else. Tanal, you held on as long as you could. You're probably the first person that comes to.
I think that Tanal kind of pulls herself back upright and immediately is looking around the space, assessing. I think that one of the few things she was able to take with her, she pulls out, I have a, what is it called? An all temperature cloak. I think pulls that out immediately, lays that over Gila, and then we'll go and check on Sledge to try to assess his injuries and if he's alive. Kind of first things first, just seeing like if this guy is still breathing.
You can make a first aid roll for me, which is under technical if you don't have first aid.
Sure, I don't think I do. Gosh, I wish I had at this point, but you know. I exploded! Oh my god, this D6 is lucky. That's a 13.
Every time Diana's rolling, she's making sure one of her dice is a wild die, one of the d6s in her dice pool, and that wild die can explode on a 6, which means you get to keep the 6 added into your total and roll again, and it can explode again if it keeps rolling 6. The flip side is that it can also roll a 1, and that could mean just that you just add a 1 and nothing else happens, or it could mean that I, as Game Master, get to add a complication to that roll. Whether the roll succeeds or fails, there could still be a complication added to that as well. Sledge is unconscious. His wound status for the purposes of the game is incapacitated, which means he's unconscious. It's not good. That means he's wounded and he's lost consciousness now. He's going to require medical attention to come to.
I think I have a med pack that should heal 1 wound level, so I think kind of very quickly going through her things, Tanal casts a very like indecisive and then regretful look towards Gila, then towards the cockpit where she knows that her other friends are probably not doing much better, but is also thinking, we have to get out of here and Sledge needs to not be unconscious because I can't carry this guy.
Okay.
And will go over and use it to try to stabilize him, at least bring him back to consciousness if possible.
Absolutely. So again, it's going to be a first aid roll. You're going to use the med pack, and you're going to try and improve his status.
Okay, cool.
I'm just going to double check the difficulty for the med pack healing. So it's a moderate difficulty. So the difficulty can be anywhere from 11 to 15.
Did not make that. I rolled a 5.
Okay. So the end result is that he's alive but unconscious. You've expended the use of the med pack, so it can't be used again. But your panic, your indecision, your frustration, it all just stems up, and you realize that you just don't have the right materials in the med pack to get him back to conscious. So he's there. It looks like he's got some really bad bruising and probably a few cuts as well. You just don't have the materials to help him right now with what you've got.
I think in this frustration is building. There's panic kind of in her eyes as they're darting around looking for literally anyone to help, and she'll kind of just call up to the front of the cockpit. Is anybody up?
Vilra, your face is cold as you open your eyes and you come to realizing you blacked out for a bit. Your face is cold and it's damp, and it's because there's snow that's blowing in through the cracked cockpit now onto your face. Salashay doesn't get snow. Not in the fields. Up in the mountains it does, but not in the egg fields. And so this is not an experience that you've had a lot of familiarity with.
I don't care for it.
Your entire body aches from the impact. The restraints saved you from getting horribly injured, but Vilra, you are wounded right now. You'll be minus 1d to all of your rolls until you are healed.
Okay. Yeah, she yells back. Yeah, I'm up. Kind of. I feel like I got punched in the chest. Like a lot, where the harness was.
Yeah, I think that's probably pretty accurate. Do we have comms? Do we have anything up there?
No. No. I don't think I could get this thing working again, even if I desperately needed it to, and I desperately need it to. But everyone good back there? I think she starts to undo the harness. Like, it's very clearly moving slowly, just like everything aches.
Sledge is unconscious. Gila is, and kind of will go over to check on Gila now at this point.
Gila, you are awake. You're in a lot of pain, and your face is wet. But it's not wet from snow. It's wet from the cut. And you've got an all temperature cloak that somebody laid across your back and your shoulders as you laid on the deck plates.
I'm alive.
Oh, thank God. Okay.
I think I've been
Are you
injured.
okay? Can you? Yeah, I think so. Probably.
Can I do first aid on Sheila?
Do you have a med pack?
No, but I have first aid as a skill.
Yes. The difficulty is going to be higher because you don't have any materials, unless you want to try searching the ship first to see if you can find a med pack.
Oh, I would search the ship first
Okay.
and hope that it didn't like fly off or get damaged or just something to help.
You can roll your search, please, under perception. And Tanal, you can hear some squawking in binary, and over your shoulder you can see that Two Pint is now at the back of the ship, whereas previously Two Pint was up at the engineering panel just behind the cockpit before, and Two Pint is wrapped up and tangled up in a whole bunch of cargo webbing that had just torn free from the walls. But the little maintenance droid was kind of rolled right into it and is now all tangled up inside it.
Help.
Oh, okay. 1 second. I'm coming. And we'll kind of come and try to start just untangling and unwrapping them from all the wires. Are you in one piece?
Takes a little arms, does a pat down.
Everything's pretty scratchy and kind of and you know, all of your servos are sounding pretty rough these days. But yes, 2 pints in one piece. So Gila is also wounded. Gila will be minus 1d on all rolls until they get treatment. But Tanal and 2 pint are not wounded, but you're banged up all the same.
A few more dents and some cracks, and I don't know, there might be a loose wire somewhere in there, but you know, otherwise I'm doing okay.
I
How are
can fix
you?
that.
Thank you.
Also, I got a 7.
Okay. You do not find a med pack on the ship, Vilra. And if there is one, it just means that it's been, like you said, tossed loose and buried under something else.
Okay.
So if you want to try and treat Gila without a med pack, it's going to be a higher difficulty, which means it's going to be a difficult. It's going to start at a difficulty of 16 with your first aid roll, which is under technical.
Okay, I'd have to explode. Is there a chance that I can hurt them if I get this wrong?
Yes.
Then I'm not going to do that.
Yes.
Because just with my dice alone, I'd have to explode at least once.
Yes.
Because I'm also down 1d. So I think it's more of a like, if she could kind of help maybe clean up, maybe not necessarily first aid, but it's like, we can wipe blood away, but I can't do anything else.
As a good reminder, there's natural healing, and your natural healing can worsen as well if you roll poorly when you roll for your healing.
Mm-hmm.
You just roll strength to do natural healing, and it's just limited by how often you can do that. But for everyone's reminder, for first aid rolls that are unsuccessful with med packs, the condition remains the same. If the first aid roll misses the difficulty by more than 10 on the difficulty number, the med pack has pushed the injured character's body to its limit, and no more med packs can be used for a full standard day. So yeah, it can actually make things harder if you fail. So.
And I'm not going to do that. I'm sorry, Gila.
It's all right.
I don't think I
Not
can.
very nice.
Yeah.
Okay, I'm a little bit worried about everybody. All right, how about you just kind of lie back a bit?
Okay.
Do we have any idea how close we were to that signal when we went down?
Do I know?
You have no idea.
Okay, I have no idea. I
It was
barely know
you
what's
were on
happening.
approach. You were headed towards it, but then a snowstorm and a TIE fighter decided to that the other plans were in order. So
We should
Yeah.
go find it while it's not hot outside.
I don't think that it I don't think that it's going to be a problem anytime soon.
No, we probably shouldn't go out. Because it's not hot outside.
That makes sense.
I think so, but I also don't know if we should stay here. That TIE fighter comes back.
Also, eventually this place is going to fill up with smoke because something is for sure on fire.
Yeah.
Oh,
Go up and take a look. We'll kind of take my my macro binoculars, and if I can climb on out of here and try to get to the top of a snowbank and take a look around.
you'll have to manually force one of the side panels open, but luckily the ship didn't tip or end up on its side blocking one of the doors. But the mechanical door is not functioning, so you have to just manually release it and give it a shove, which it's not all strong enough to do that, but it takes a moment. But it kind of almost wedges in place because you only get it so far before the warping of the hull that it prevents it from going any farther. And now cold air and snow is just blowing into the troop compartment, filling it up even worse than it was with the previous holes in the hull. But you step outside. It looks like you're in some mountainous terrain, but it does look like there's a hill that kind of descends away from you, so it's almost like you're mountain going into tundra. Pull up the macro binoculars. The little mechanical whir light flashes over your eyes as the view screen illuminates up, giving you the ability to see both distance and with a bit more clarity as you switch through some of the low light settings. And it looks like rocky mountainous terrain extends up away from you, and rolling tundra hill extends down. And so it looks like Vilra got the ship down just in time, at risk of smashing into the side of the mountain if she tried to keep flying any longer. And as you scan across, you see just this dark rolling tundra. Yes, there's snow and ice and stone, but there's a little bit of scrub grass peeking up, so it's not all entirely frozen. And then in the distance, you can see lights. And down at the bottom of the long, long hill, and as you're zooming in, it's giving the rangefinder's coming in, it's telling you you're probably 2-3 kilometers away, so it's going to be a bit of a distance. You can see lights, and you can see a settlement, and you can see a bay of water that nestles up against the tundra and seems to stretch out. A lot of it is settled in fog. It's quite thick, and you can't see out into the bay. There's no visibility, but there's a settlement down there. You can see mostly 1-2-story structures, lights in various places. On the north side, you can see what looked to be an old 2- or 3-story building, and you can see there's a large communications array, a large dish pointed up to the sky, but there's a massive hole in it, and there's no lights anywhere on it. It's all dark, and there's a giant hole in one of the panels on the dish. And then that gives way into the settlement. You can see the bay. You can see, briefly, between some of the buildings, boats on the water, anchored up at shore, but there's some watercraft there. And then as you go further south, more of the buildings, more of the settlements, it's probably twice as big as West Crag, so probably 3,000-4,000 people, maybe, if it seems, but not all the buildings have lights, and there's not a lot of activity down there at the moment. You can see what looks to be 2 old landing bays, walled landing bays that are open air, but they are dark. There's no lights, there's no activity. They don't seem to have any indicators going on. And then just beyond them, on the water side, a well-lit, brightly illuminated hermacrete landing pad that's just open air, sitting in the open. There's a ship sitting on the landing pad. There's large towers with spotlights coming down, and there's a security tower that seems to be overlooking the landing pad as well. And that seems to be where what little activity you can see at this distance is difficult to get much detail, but there does appear to be some figures moving around the landing pad. And then occasionally, if you slide the macro binoculars back across the settlement, occasionally you can pick out 1 or 2 silhouetted forms walking through the streets. But again, it's probably 2, almost 3 kilometers away, down a rocky, slick tundra hill in the middle of the night.
Okay.
And as you ponder that, you're interrupted as the sound of a twin ion engine starfighter roars overhead, but not directly overhead, off to the side. And a TIE fighter comes into view in the midst of the snowstorm. They've got a spotlight, and they're shining it down on the ground as they fly on past, but they're nowhere near the dropship at the moment, and they go off in a different direction. But they're doing a search grid as they're sweeping, and then they disappear. They pull up again. The spotlight disappears off the ground as it pulls up into the sky and is swallowed by the snowstorm.
I assume it's too far away, based on your description. But do I see anything at the settlement that screams Imperial to me, or is it kind of just too vague?
Other than the TIE fighters flying overhead?
I mean, yeah, but you know.
I'm going to have you make a perception check. You get the bonus to the perception because your macro binoculars give you that bonus dice for your rolls. So now you're searching for something specific. And so I think the macro binoculars give you a bonus to search, if I remember correctly.
Yep.
And use those bonus dice. Make sure one of those dice is your wild die, and give me a roll and tell me what you get.
Okay. Okay, no explosions, but that's okay. And then, can I do math? Maybe bonus. That is going to be a 15.
Lots of small figures that you can see, mostly silhouetted. The lighting, in the streets is a bit dim. The snow is blowing, so it's obviously helping cast shadows. And then you focus back on the landing pad, and you can see that there's a ship there. It doesn't look to be an Imperial design that you can tell. It's hard to say if it's a shuttle or a freighter. Could be one or the other. The spotlights shine down, illuminating the ship, making the ship stand out in the light, but then casting long shadows along the landing pad. So again, the figures are a bit darkened. And as you focus in on those figures for a moment, kind of looks like civilians, kind of looks like people just walking their way. And then you see a pair of figures come into view, and they've got a distinctly odd shape, almost like a big helmet on their head that seems to be covering. It doesn't look like an Imperial Stormtrooper helmet. It's bigger than that. And they seem to be kind of clad in sort of some type of matching outfits. And as their hands move around away from their bodies, when everything's up close, you can't see, but then you can see something in their hands. It could be a weapon. And they sort of seem to be walking as a pair in the vicinity of the landing pad.
Okay. So some type of uniform, but not sure what type. Probably armed. Okay. Tanal will kind of slide back down the snowbank and hop back into the ship. Okay, there's a settlement about 2 or 3 kilometers away from here. I can't tell if they're Imperials or not. There's some kind of... they've got ships, they've got a landing pad, they've got a communications array, looks damaged. But I think that kind of looking at all of the injured members of this group, I think we gotta risk it. We certainly can't stay here. They're searching for us.
Right.
What do we tell them when we get there? What's our story?
I think that depends on who we find when we get there.
Fair.
Right.
Hopefully they won't ask too many questions. But
What are we gonna do about the sledge unconscious? I can't carry him. I'm not very good at muscly things, mostly because I have metal and not muscles, but I don't really know. What are we gonna do?
I can carry him.
Good option. Maybe another
Uh-huh.
one is good. Yeah, better.
that'll be plan B.
Maybe we
Yeah.
make like a sled
It's a good
and kind
idea.
of drag him. I honestly don't know. Have we tried slapping him or like putting some snow like on his face or something to kind of jolt him awake?
I don't know if that's gonna do the trick.
That was not in my first aid class, but I'm willing to try.
Right. Even if he does wake up, I don't know if he'd be able to move anytime soon. So a sled might be the way to go. We like look around for any like, you know, chunks of sheet metal that have ripped off, or like, you know, bits of siding. You know.
Those who are searching can search the ship, and if there's anything else you want to look for while you're doing so, please tell me.
Okay.
Search is
I'm
under
looking
perception.
for anything of use, so like med kits, or if there's any like battery cells or weapons or anything that's kind of stowed away.
Absolutely.
I'm gonna help with the creation of the sled, like trying to find bits and bobs that I think would work. And that's just perception if I don't have.
So anybody who's going to make a slave for sledge can just roll your technical, because it's just basically you're just putting together scrap, which there's quite a bit of scrap metal all of a sudden in and around the ship as pieces flew off as you smashed into the rocky ground. It's not a problem to find the materials. You just need a bit of time to do it. So anybody making the litter to pull sledge can roll their technical. Anybody searching the ship for anything else of use can roll their search.
Yep. I will definitely
Got it.
search.
And don't forget your minus die if you're wounded.
Got a 13.
Okay.
If I'm rolling, my technical is 2D, so I'm -1. Do I just roll the wild die
You just
then?
roll the wild die. That's all you roll. And maybe you
Okay.
ask anybody on the team to help you that might be skilled with the technical things.
I can help you.
Hey, 2 Pint, what's up? Does that mean I roll more or add
No,
more?
you just roll your wild die. But if 2 Pints can help, 2 Pint can make their own roll as well.
Yeah.
What you got, Vilra?
I roll a 1,
Okay.
but I add
Forward.
1 to it, so it's 2.
2. Well, that's twice as good as 1.
12, 13. I got a
God.
14.
And I got a 15.
We're
Are
trying
you,
real hard.
Tanal, are you searching or are you helping build?
I think that Tanal is searching and also is definitely looking for anything that will help in like extreme temperature survival as well.
Yes, okay. And sorry, what was your roll again?
15.
15. And Gila got 15 as well?
I got 13.
13, thank you.
And I got 2, just in case anyone forgot. Rolled a
Good.
1, got a 2.
Incredible.
Thank you.
Good job.
2 Pints able to find plenty of scrap metal and some, cabling that's not live wires that you can just snap out and use as ropes and things of that nature. And even some synth line. You probably can even find some utility belt synth line that you can use as ropes and so forth, and make up a little harness that somebody can wear to pull the litter. And then you can use some of the wiring and such to kind of strap Sledge into place and to hold him down.
Oh, can I also take some of the like cargo netting that I was trapped in and like cut off some chunks and put it in my tummy compartment?
Sure.
It's like, thank you.
If you do that, remembering that your little compartment is small, so you can fill it up absolutely, but there won't be much room for anything else if you fill it up with as much cargo netting as you can stuff in there. But you can absolutely put a big chunk of it in there when you just roll it up tightly. Absolutely.
Yeah. Cool.
For sure. 2 Pint, Vilra doesn't seem to be very confident or fast. So the complication I'm just going to give Vilra for that is that she's so out of it. She's basically no help to you. You do most of the work and she just kind of holds things in place while you actually do a flash weld or a quick tie or put something together. Vilra seems very out of it right now and doesn't seem to be able to concentrate on what you're looking to do.
I am so encouraging the whole time. Good job. You're holding that great. You don't hand me the other tool, but good job anyway.
Thank you. Oh, I'm trying my hardest, and let me tell you, it is physically difficult.
You're doing a great job. I couldn't tell you're off your game at all. You're doing great.
You are such a good liar.
Oh.
I believe that. Okay, thank you.
Gila, you find a few things, one of which is one more med pack in a security cupboard in the back of the ship. It doesn't look like it's fully stocked. It probably looks like it's a little bit that's been obviously there for at least 10 years, but it does have enough basics that you can make one more good use of a med pack for somebody if you decide you need to. You find a few more of the freeze-dried meal rations that you've all been subsisting on for the number of days that you were in hyperspace, getting to Fest. They certainly are not appetizing, but they provided basic sustenance, and there was only a few of them left, but you managed to find a few of those just scattered in the back of the ship. So you've got a tiny amount of food. And you find some power cells for things like glow rods and a few useful things like that. So not too many, but a handful that you can use to power some small devices should you find them later on. You don't find any weapons.
Gotcha. I'll kind of turn excitedly towards Vera. I found a med pack. You should use it. You're injured.
It's fine. I'm gonna just ignore this and it'll be fine.
You should use it. Statistically,
Tanal,
you are the most apt person to have it.
Tanal's in the deeper in the back, at the where the back access ramp would drop down. The hanging racks overhead, where they would hang their speeder bikes for combat missions, would rest. But there's obviously no speeder bike here. But there are some of the trooper lockers back there. And what you find is a series of piecemeal pieces of Mark I clone trooper armor. Not full suits, but a greave, shoulder pauldron, partial chest plate. There's enough pieces, if you wish, that you can outfit 2 people in partial armor. But they have the clone trooper division markings still on them.
Okay. So it's a risk.
Well, does Two Pine have any paint?
I don't know, Two Pine, how much paint do you have left?
Probably. I'm gonna roll. Two Pine does not have much paint, but could probably do something sparingly, just like a 1 coat of something.
So Two Pine could remove the most obvious troop and division markings, so that it would just be generic armor. And if you didn't have all the pieces on one person, it may not be recognizable as actual clone trooper armor unless somebody was very close to it and knew what clone trooper armor looked like.
Okay.
But you can mix and match, and I can give you armor statistics for 2 people in the group if that's what you decide that you want to do, where you can armor up 2 of them with partial armor. It'll only give partial protection. I'll tell you what that is if you decide to do that.
Okay. Yeah, I think that Tunnel definitely comes and pulls all these out to the rest of the group. I think wearing these is a risk, but I don't. If we get down there and somebody starts shooting, I think it's a risk that is worth taking.
Then I think you should wear one. You're the most combat ready out of any of us, and the strongest.
Yeah, I don't mind being on the front lines. Anybody else?
I mean, I'd wear it, but it's not my size, so.
I think Vila should wear it.
I was gonna say I think you should wear it. I'm already hurt. It can only get.
But we can fix you, and like shakes the
Yeah.
jacket.
I think she's gonna take the med pack and be like, I'm gonna work on this.
Okay. Jill, I'll show you how to strap some of this on and kind of will go. I would love to take the cool shoulder pauldron if I can, because I think
Yeah.
it's neat. I want that one really bad, but the rest will kind of try to like definitely like divvy up between the two of them. I think that Tanal is definitely taking a lot more pieces that are like um gonna like help with like um more like minor like rough and tumble injuries, like kind of like protecting like, you know, the her wrists, knees, like stuff like that, someone who's going to be like running around. Whereas for Gila, she's definitely going to pull the things that are like protecting the vital parts of your body.
For sure.
Kind of will try to divvy them up that way.
So Tanal and Gila can add piecemeal armor. It gives you plus 1d protection for physical attacks. So when you roll your strength to resist any physical attack, a punch, a melee attack, so forth, anything that's not a ranged or an energy weapon, you get an extra dice to add to your resistance roll. And it gives you plus 2 against energy attacks. So you'd roll your normal strength, but you get an extra plus 2 against any sorts of energy attacks. Because obviously the armor doesn't cover your whole body, and it's not properly fitted to diffuse or deflect energy weapons. Plus 1d to physical, plus 2 to energy, as long as you're wearing this piecemeal armor. 2 Pint expends pretty much the last of their canisters, removing the last of the clone trooper markings. You can do it straight white, straight blue, straight black, whatever, and maybe that's all 2 Pint can do is mix the last of their color to make this black sludge that just kind of covers over the worst of it, so that it does appear just to be what it is, which is old, battered combat armor.
Can I try to first aid myself now?
So if you use a med pack on yourself, it's a higher difficulty, and you're at the minus 1d to your first aid roll already. And let me just double check that.
What if I used something else along with it? Something maybe a little forceful.
Tell me what you're thinking. And I'm just
I
going to
need to
double
look
check.
it up, but I was thinking of if I could use control pain.
So control pain will help you ignore the pain, so you don't get the minus 1d, which is good. And it just depends if you're going to keep that power up, because then it's staying up as a power, which does incur the minus 1d for other rolls in the future.
No, I think it would just be just for this, like to kind of. Yeah.
Okay. So you need to make your control roll.
Which I forgot how to do.
So it's just like a skill, your control dice. It is subject to the minus 1d because you're wounded, but it can't go below 1d. And
I just don't remember how many control dice I have.
I believe it's 1d, right?
1d, yeah. Okay.
So you're wounded. The difficulty for control pain is very easy. So it's just a DC. It's just a DC of 3. But you're rolling 1 die, and it is your wild die, so it can't explode. So you got a 5.
I got a 5.
Okay. So for the moment, you don't feel the incredible ache and pain. And so you kind of have to sit down somewhere for a moment, concentrate on yourself, concentrate on what your body's feeling. No one else realizes that this is taking place, but this is what's happened. And so now you feel like you can concentrate long enough to do that first aid check on yourself. And real quickly again, I do believe. So wounded is an easy difficulty. So the difficulty is a 6 on your first aid roll, but let me just double check if it reminds. No, so a character can use a med pack on themselves, but they suffer an extra minus 1d penalty in addition to any other penalties. So what's your first aid?
My first aid is 3d plus 2.
So that means it'll be 2d plus 2 because you're using the med pack on yourself, but you're not suffering the minus 1d from also being wounded. So that's a good thing.
Okay.
And it's a very easy roll, so it's only a difficulty of 3.
Okay. I did roll a 1 on my wild die,
Okay.
and it's a 5 total.
Okay. So here's what happens. You expend the med pack is gone. You don't have to use control pain because the pain goes away. You feel like you are better now that the med pack has taken care of the worst of your injury in that regard. But there's a complication on that roll, and that complication I'm going to keep in my back pocket, and it's going to come up later.
Okay, I'm not worried about that.
On a little
Okay.
treat, little reward for later.
Little treat for later. Yeah, I think at that point Vilra kind of stretches and then winces a little because it still hurts, but it's like, okay,
You have a
more
little less of
manageable.
the fog in your head now, though, which seems to be helping.
Oh, okay. Yeah, Gila, this was a good call. This was the correct action to take. You are so smart.
I try.
Gila's still a little staggery and a little woozy when they speak and when they walk around. So just keeping an eye on Gila probably is a good idea.
Yeah, I think that Tanal like kind of finishes like helping them put some of the armor on, and it's just like, hey, can you just like 1 second, just follow here, look here,
Just looking in your eyes.
and here,
Yeah.
uh-huh, and here.
Huh? What? Huh? Yeah. Hmm.
Right. I think you'll be okay once we get some help. Just
Yeah.
stay close, okay?
Yeah. No. Yeah. I'll stay close.
All right, good.
Who's gonna drag Sledge? Somebody has to
I got it, guys.
you harness up Tanal and you're
Mhm.
dragging Sledge. It's not going to be a very smooth ride for Sledge, but it is going to get
No.
out.
Mhm.
You already had jammed open the door, so you've got the bay door open. You're able to get the litter through and get everybody outside. The snow's blowing, it's dark, but now the rest of you can see with way less detail, but you can see those lights. And Vilra, you can see the single tower rising up above that little pocket of bright light where the landing pad is that Tanal saw earlier. And you can see a large tower that rises up above, even higher than the security tower that watches over the pad. And you can see a blinking light of a landing beacon calling out into the night.
That's it. I also have a glow rod, so we can try and watch our step. But yeah, that's where we're headed, where I was trying to head.
And
You're really not home anymore.
as Vilra talks about glow rods, a light flashes on the ground again, quite a distance away, but as a TIE fighter roars out of the snowstorm one more time, scanning the ground with the spotlight. Before it kills the light disappears and it rises up, and then you hear a second roar as another TIE fighter from the other side comes, and it flies up out of the snowstorm, mirroring with the other one's flight path, and now there's 2 of them. And they circle about for a moment, and then they roar off towards the settlement and seem to be flying in a path above and beyond it, out into the fog-shrouded bay. You can't see anything else beyond that. So the TIE fighters that were here are now leaving.
Oh, that's good.
Yeah, that's one point in the maybe the settlement won't be full of stormtroopers category. All right.
Perhaps we don't make our presence known.
Question: how much snow is on the ground?
Light snow.
Light snow. Okay. Is it actively snowing or just foggy?
It's actively blowing snow, not so much
Okay.
just heavy falling snow as normally. It's mountainous air that's blowing snow around. It could be picking snow up off the ground and blowing it around and then dropping it back down. When you're on approach, Vilra could see blowing snow of a snowstorm, probably higher up in the mountainous altitudes.
Okay.
Down here, it just seems to be cold, blustery air, but it doesn't appear to be heavy snow so much as it's just picking up snow and blustering it around. It's just a tundra wasteland.
In that case, knowing that there are TIE fighters looking for our ship, and if they find it, they are gonna come looking for us. Can Two Pint like take his tow cable and try and like drag a piece of metal to like cover our footprints in the snow, or like cover it a little bit, with the wind blowing, so it's harder to see which direction we went. I mean, they're probably going to assume we went to the settlement, but just in case.
The short answer is yes, and as you start to look ahead, there is some firmer ground and some rocky ground that you can try and walk on as well. That'll probably help a little bit, though it doesn't take. It's not hard to guess that if anybody survived to the crash, there's only one direction they're probably likely to go. But the number of people traveling and so forth, yeah, you can absolutely use your tow cable, tie on, and just kind of scrape the ground anywhere that's softer, that's leaving footprints. You can scrape that and just try and mask it a bit. Absolutely.
Perfect. And Two Pint will be in the back of the group doing that.
Okay. 2 kilometers over tundra terrain with light snow. You're cold, you're hungry, you're wounded, and it's nighttime. It takes a long time to walk 2 kilometers at night over uneven ground while dragging somebody wounded on a litter behind you. But eventually you get to the outskirts of the settlement. There's a few more lights. You do see people walking, perhaps not as many as would be in daylight hours. But the sky is almost a murky gray-black, and so it's even difficult to necessarily know what time of night it is. But there's lights on the sides of the buildings shining into some of the main streets, but there's lots of side alleys and darkness as well. Plenty of places that you can maneuver your way up and get into the settlement at the fringe before you decide where you're going to go and what you're going to do. Everyone can roll perception, remembering your wounded status if you're wounded once you get into town.
I rolled a 10.
I rolled a 9.
I got a 15.
Also rolled a 10.
You can hear the sounds of the inhabitants walking about, some droids scroll on past. You can hear the sound of the bay water just gently on the shore, washing up against the rocks. You can hear the creaks of some of the boats that are anchored with their repulsor engines. You can smell the water now that you're down here. Not the sea spray of West Crag, your home, crashing up against the cliffs. This is just the scent of still water. And you can smell fish, sea life, harvesting. There seems to be a bit of activity more towards the center of the settlement. There's a few signs for that. Definitely seems these are not military buildings. It seems to be civilian. And then Tanal, as you can see that one of them is deciding which direction to go and kind of craning their head out, you're able to kind of yank Vilra and Gila back as they're looking one direction down the street, and as you look the other way, and as you see walking in pair in tandem. And I'll put it up in our little private chat, and we will share this with everybody later on. But Tanal, you see these two figures come walking down the lane. And I've got that up on our Discord. Oh, I don't have it up on our Discord because I actually have to share it in our Discord first to be smart. There we go.
Okay.
Tanal sees 2 white-clad Imperial snowtroopers with these large, oversized helmets and full face shields, environmental face shields covering up their mask and their helmets, with their white armor that's stained and dirty, the boots scuffed up by the dirty tundra ground, carrying blaster rifles in their hands. And as they walk, not terribly vigilant, just walking a patrol through town, and you pull everyone back into this side alley that you're in. They pay no mind. They're not actively searching for anybody. They're not actively seeming to look. They're just doing a patrol. But 2 Imperial snowtroopers walk down the street past you, and they continue on in the direction of the landing pad.
Give me regular reports, please. Right.
What's the plan?
I have no idea. Well, the first thing that we need is shelter and medical attention. Is there... Can I, like... I know we're, like, barely into town at all. Is there anywhere that looks like some kind of, like, infirmary or place where there would be a healer or, you know, like, what's the vibe?
What would be a quick way to get stock of the town's services and inhabitants? Where would you
Nice
get?
point.
Where would you get that information?
The tower? The abandoned tower? Probably be our best bet.
Sure, but who's really good at getting information quickly?
2 Point, you want to plug in?
So if you can find if you can find 2 Point and access point, then yes, whatever network is here, however small or rundown it might be, 2 Point can probably find a bit of information for you right away. So it doesn't take too long, but you're going to have to go down the streets a little bit. Are you going to take Sledge and the litter with you, or is somebody going to go? Is 2 Point going to go themselves, or is somebody going to go with 2 Point just to find an access point so that 2 Point can plug in?
I mean, there have been. You said there were droids that were passing. So then I think 2 Pint will be like, right, you all should stay here and I can report back with anything I find. I feel like as a group we're going to draw more attention than just banged up droid kind of floating around.
All right.
Be careful.
Very careful. Zoom off to go find an access point.
And then 2 Pint's gone. And you can't really stick your head out too far to see if you don't want to be seen yourself, so you don't know which way they've gone or what they're doing. 2 Pint, it's a aquaculture settlement. It appears to be a fishing settlement. It appears to have some light industry. It appears to have a landing pad down at the far end, the opposite direction of where you've gone. You've gone more in the direction of the old sort of admin building and the giant old communications array. That's all the lights are off. It's not powered. It's not working. There's a giant hole through one of the panels in the dish. But there's plenty of storefronts, and then there's obviously plenty of homesteads as well. And it doesn't take too long before you can find an access terminal on the side of one of the buildings that has a scomp link that you can absolutely plug into. If you want to make a computer programming repair, roll for me and pull up the local network and see what you can find.
Perfect. I get to roll 6 die for computer programming. So that is, did not explode, but that is 10, 12, 14, 16, and I get to roll another one because that's just 5. 16 plus 5 is 21.
Okay. And no complication on your wild die?
Nope.
Okay. This is the settlement of Somber, located on the Bay of Somber, on the planet Fest. Fest being in the Atravis sector, the Atravis sector being in the Outer Rim territories. Depending on how much 2 Pint knows about astrogation, but knows a little bit about just, the geography of the galaxy, the Outer Rim is a long way from Salachet, a long way from where you came. You're able to pull up a lot of commonly accessible knowledge. It's a pretty rugged world, pretty much a snow-covered world, but not an ice planet. And there seems to just probably be multiple settlements scattered around the planet for this, and maybe some large, maybe even a larger spaceport. You don't know. Nothing obviously that's here. You see the telltale markings of an Imperial network overlaid on top of the local network that was probably in place before the arrival of the Empire. Meaning that there's some type of an Imperial presence here, the depth of which you obviously can't tell from just a single terminal, but it lets you know that yes, there is Imperial activity on this network as well. But you're able to find a quick directory, you're able to find a quick map, which you can sort of download into your internal memory bank. Again, it's probably twice as big as West Craig, so like a few thousand inhabitants, few thousand homesteaders. So it's a small fishing and agricultural settlement, just not so different from West Craig in that regard, but obviously with a different industry. And yes, you can find a public infirmary, which is back in the direction the other way, following in the footsteps of where the snowtroopers went, but not all the way down to the spaceport, just sort of in the middle of town, where you can take sledge to if that's what you choose to do.
Perfect. Can I also look and see it, like, if my friends' photos and names are on like a wanted list, or like look for anything like that? I don't know if it's like if they're on a galaxy-wide wanted list, or if they're just like, hey, watch out for these people.
Yeah. So to do that, my friend, you can look for that type of information. Nothing comes up on the local network, but that means you'd have to access the Imperial network, and the Imperial network will absolutely have a list of any recent bounties or wanted alerts that the Empire has issued. Are you going to access the Imperial network to look for that information?
I feel like it's important to know, especially if we're gonna go show our faces at an infirmary.
Okay. So you're gonna roll computer program and repair one more time.
Oh. Okay. Don't fail me. Okay, I got a 2 on my exploding dice, so nothing happens there. So that's 5, 6, 7, 10, 15, 16, 17. Re-roll that one for 6. So that's another 21.
It's another excellent roll, because it was a difficulty to get access to the Imperial network without triggering any alerts that way. What are you searching for? You're able to get into the security alerts that are shared across the network. So alerts and so information to be shared both with local authorities as well as imperial forces. What are you searching for? What are you looking for in terms of trying to locate information? You're inside the network, so you can do this now, but you have to be specific in terms of what you're looking for.
I want to look for any reports about or coming from Salashay.
Okay. There is a general planetary alert for Salashay. Flight traffic off-world is through a single point at the main spaceport at the capital. So it's restricted and only on approved flight paths. There is an incident report about an industrial accident at a mining outpost. Casualties reported, no numbers given. The site is to be considered secure and access by locals is denied. And there's an alert that the Imperial Star Destroyer Fortitude has been redirected to the system and is controlling all entry and exit points in hyperspace to Salashay right now. Do you do any other searches before you unplug?
Roughly how long were we traveling for?
It's probably been about 3 or 4 days.
Okay.
Just
Then
not just not quite a week.
okay. Um,
Going
I don't
from
want to
the
like
going from the
search
core
up.
to the outer rims.
Okay. I don't want to search up our names because that feels like a red flag. But I would love to look up at any people added to the list since we've left, if possible. Like, in the past week, here's the people with bounties on their heads, and I'm sure it's a lot of information. But I'll just kind of see if
Okay.
I can spot them.
Okay. There is a large list of missing individuals. There's a list of wanted for questioning individuals. On that list, when you narrow it down, because it's quite extensive, it appears that there's been like reactions around the planet to what's happened and to the Imperial sort of shutting down of the space traffic to the systems. There seems to be a lot of people that are missing, whether they've gone into hiding or something else has happened, you don't know. And of course, there's a lot of people that the Empire is wanting for questioning. You see the name Vikos Za, Vilra's father, who ran the repair bay, is on the missing and wanted for questioning list. You would also see nope. You would also see Mila Sesper, Tanal's aunt, employee of the employee of the shipping company run by Gila's father. She is missing and wanted for questioning. Oten, Twi'lek engineer and botanist, missing and wanted for questioning. Anybody who either had employment with the Salashe Ag Corp or attached as a civilian contractor in some way and may or may not have been known to the Empire, at least in terms of just personnel records, would seem to have their names on there. For example, what you don't see is you don't see Amani Jairin, Tanal's mother. You don't see her name on there. You don't see Vin Jairin, Tanal's stepfather, on there. You don't see Gila's father on there. He's neither reported missing nor wanted for questioning. And then you find a security alert. And then you find under the orders to locate and detain. And in those listings, you find a listing for Vilraza Iktochi, resident of West Crag, missing, wanted for questioning, detain, wanted for crimes against the Empire.
Job.
And they have an image of what she looks like. And it's security footage, so it's not perfect. It's a little grainy. It's at a bit of a distance. But the facility, of course, has security cameras, and Vilra was not wearing a technician's uniform with a cap pulled low in the whole 9 yards. She was there as herself. But the Empire's put out a detain order. Locate and detain order on Vilraza. and a missing and wanted for questioning order on related family members for each of you in some form or another, and individuals that you knew that were at West Crag and may have had direct contact with the Empire.
All right. Is that everything I got?
For the moment. Anything more than that, you'd have to go deeper. You'd have to slice into the network, into secure
Yeah.
areas. This is still publicly available knowledge for anybody that has access to the Imperial network.
Yeah, okay. I'm not gonna risk it. I feel like we've got some good information. And I'll zoom back over to my friends.
Okay.
Right, so here's everything I found out. And I'll just kind of info dump about it. Be like, there's an infirmary that way. Things are wild on Salishay, so that's not good there. But we really need to cover Dora's face because they know what you look like and you are wanted. So I don't know if maybe we want to move the armor onto Vilra to hide, or like, I don't know, get you a pair of glasses and a mustache or something. I don't know, but we gotta figure out something.
I think we have to get out of these clothes because none of anything that any of us are wearing is like prepared for this kind of climate. Like, I assume we all kind of stick out like sore thumbs.
And you're all cold as hell because none of you had proper gear to walk 2 kilometers in a snowy tundra.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm assuming we smell. We've been locked in a ship together.
And you've been locked in a ship
multiple
for a week
days.
with no refreshers and no drop ships are not equipped with comforts.
Mm-hmm. Well,
And I need to hide.
it wasn't on the local network or anything though, right? It was just Imperial.
Right.
Okay.
But like, I mean, anyone with access to Imperial is still gonna be going. Like, could see the network, so
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, I think the first thing that we need is medical attention, so I think that's just going to be a risk with the infirmary, but I think everything else we can figure out after we've all healed and had a good night's rest.
We also need to come up with what planet are we from? Because we can't say where we're from.
Do we know like what's like a couple like the next planet over? Like I'm cooking on like we're a bunch of dumb teenagers who found this old ship and took it for a joyride and now we're fucked. Like would we know like
Salashay's in the core. There's a lot of other systems nearby. That would be good.
Okay.
Assuming I don't pull a planet name out of my head that is totally inappropriate. But you would know some of your neighboring. You would know some of your neighboring systems. And actually, just really quick here. Let me just go like this. And
sorry to make you look at a map.
no. It's all good. It's all good. And actually, what we will do then is you're going to come up with a cover story. You're going to come up with what you're going to do. You're going to head to the infirmary. We're going to pause and we're going to take our 10-minute break and everybody's going to have a little stretch. And then we will come back with your cover stories and with your new identities when we return. Thank you. And welcome back to Quadrilateral Frostfall, a Star Wars actual play. We are on the planet Fest in the fishing and aquacultural settlement of Somber. On the Bay of Somber, a fog-shrouded bay of water with a series of homesteads, a windswept tundra on all sides, water on the other side, homesteaders eking out their survival. But we know that we're still under the shadow of the Empire. Imperial TIE fighters still patrol the skies, and on the street level, we've seen at least one patrol of Imperial snowtroopers patrolling the streets. Having descended from the tundra-swept mountain above, dragging on a sledge the salvager, who is injured and unconscious after the crash landing you had. You know where the infirmary is, Two Pint having sliced the local network to get you that information, and having discovered with that information the wanted status of Vil Razah, your Tochi friend pilot, and now wanted for detainment and potential crimes against the Empire. And so you have to decide if you're going to take Sledge directly to the infirmary and if you're going to alter your appearances or disguise Vilber's appearance before you do so, to ensure that an Ektochi is not spotted on the streets of Somber.
I have a poncho you can wear. I don't know how helpful that'll be. It's got a hood, so...
It's better than nothing. Yeah, I'll put that on because you need to keep the cloak on to stay warm. So...
I think if you stand kind of at the back of the group when we all go in, kind of hide, duck into cover a bit.
Yeah, I'll stay quiet and just sort of hang out.
Just don't look suspicious.
Well, I'm going to be having a hood that covers my face, being quiet and standing in the back of a group, so... Well, I'll...
Oh boy.
Okay.
Are you going to salvage any of your clothing? Are you going to salvage any of Sledge's clothing to make a face covering for Vilra?
Like a little scarf.
Like a scarf.
Ah, yes.
It could go around and then I mean, it's cold here, so it's not like that's a crazy concept.
I have some extra clothing in my bag because I packed like we were going on vacation instead of running from the law. So I will sacrifice my part of my business suit, the sleeves, and try to fashion them into a face mask for you.
Sure, perfect. Yeah.
Okay.
Plus the hood of the poncho, so get the poncho kind of around.
Yeah.
And then
Okay,
maybe
guys,
if you,
how I look?
and then if you stand in the back and like shiver a lot, like you're really cold, and then they'll be like, "Oh, well, that's why the hood and scarf is still on."
Yeah. And I'll speak when spoken to. I'm not gonna I'm just gonna be shy.
Right. There you go.
Shy.
Nice.
Hopefully we'll get out of here before people start asking too many questions.
And then we can find a place to hide out or something after we
Yeah.
get attended to.
Okay. I'm going to take Sledge on the litter and drag him across the streets down the road to the infirmary.
Yep.
How are we?
Going-
Honor,
Oh, sorry. I'm gonna say, how do we describe what happened to all of us?
Ooh.
I mean, we're all clearly from off-world and have been pretty badly injured. I don't think it would be too insane to say that our ship went down.
Sure. Okay. Yeah. I'm gonna let you
Counterpoint.
lead that conversation because you have the confidence.
Counterpoint,
Nice.
though, if we say our ship went down and then the only downed ship they find is a drop ship, that might raise more questions.
That's true. I didn't think of that.
let's say there was an accident at the docks where dock workers or fishermen We had a colleague here who suffered a severe injury, and I got popped on the head.
But aren't we saying we're from a different planet? Because we're clearly not local.
We could be migrant workers.
Oh, sure. Yeah.
Right. Came here looking for work. Had an accident. Just looking for a little bit of help and some warmer clothes.
Perfect. I like
I
that.
don't,
Okay.
don't volunteer anymore. Hope that they don't ask anymore, and we'll be out of here before there's any kind of problem. Right?
Yep, we've got a fake name locked and loaded.
Okay. Good. Perfect.
All right, you're set. You got your cover story. Sledge isn't getting any better.
Nope.
Drag him off,
Yeah.
down. Pass a couple droids in the street. You pass a couple locals who look over to see you pulling this litter of thing, but nobody stops you. Nobody specifically goes out of their way to ask you what's happened. But they do see you because there's a few people in the street, even at this late hour. It's late hour, maybe it's early morning. You really can't tell because of the overcast sky. It's now that you're in the settlement and somewhat protected from the wind, it's still that blowy snow that's just continually getting stirred up and then dropped back down again with a little bit of light snow coming from above. But you don't get it's still cold, but you don't get the biting wind like you did coming down the tundra side towards the settlement. You get to the infirmary, signage up top, and it's open and you can head on in.
Yeah.
The infirmary is empty inside as far as any other people. It appears to be just a simple storefront countertop, and then there's a access hall leading to the back. There is a droid, which I will share with you, and Eric will share with everybody after. Inside, a 2-1B medical droid, looking pretty banged up, like a kindred spirit for 2 Pint. Been in service a long time. But it does have a vocabulator, can speak in basic, state the nature of the emergency.
Our friend here is unconscious, and a few others are injured as well. Is there anything you can do to help?
Treatment progressing. Please place contract cards on the terminal. And the droid leaves the desk where there's a terminal there and just starts going over to Sledge first, seeming that as you kind of, if everybody indicates that he's the most injured, and seems to start treating Sledge without waiting for any proof of anything, but has given you the instructions.
Right.
Look over 2 Pint and kind of like, can you hack it?
Yeah, I'll go over and plug in and see what I can do. Scoot over.
2-1B medical droid is very, very good at medical and not terribly skilled for programming anything else. I'm going to roll a basic perception check. Are you going to try and sneak 2 Pints to avoid sort of being noticed doing this, or are you just going to straight up go plug in and we'll just roll and see if the droid notices you accessing the terminal?
Yeah, I mean, I feel like 2 Pint is trying to be a little sneaky about it.
Okay.
Can I go with them and act like I have, because I have data pads and data cards in my pocket, and act like I'm doing that?
Absolutely.
2 Pints.
Absolutely.
Perfect.
Okay. So roll your sneak
Okay.
2 Pint, which is under your perception. I'm going to roll a basic perception check for the droid, which is not focusing on you at all. It's focusing on its primary programming, which is treating the injured.
Okay, I got an 8 and also a 1 on my wild die. So
Okay. Okay.
that's fun.
Don't write that down. Don't write things down.
During the break, I did a whole like, oh, my dice have been going so good. Never do that, people. They'll know. They'll bite you in the butt.
2 Pint plugs in. Gila steps up, providing a bit of a cover in terms of just putting their body in front of 2 Pint, but then also playing with some cards on the counter and just kind of making a show as if they're getting some contractor cards out. And Tanal, you can see that the medical droid is starting to treat Sledge and giving some injections and taking a couple things, peeling away some of his clothing, tending to the open wounds right away, and doing a pretty efficient job of it. Even though its servos are a bit loud and clackety, and it's obviously seen better days, but it still seems to be capable of doing the job that it's doing. And then Gila, you and 2 Point up at the top, and Vilra, assuming she's staying sort of to the back near the door, just so wrapped up in the hood and the scarf. And Gila and 2 Point, and you hear from the back, Silver, why did you reset the terminal? And you hear an older woman's voice. And then you can hear she kind of like makes an effort to get up, and she starts coming to the front counter from down the hallway. You can hear somebody coming. Stop resetting the terminal. And so 2 Point, you've had a hiccup, and it's reset the terminal instead of pulling up the network. And so it's alerted the whole system inside the infirmary has been rebooted essentially. And now the person's coming up to check.
And try to distract or fix the problem. Oh.
Gila, you are greeted with an elderly human woman who comes up, and as soon as she sees you, she smiles. She says, I'm sorry for the delay. Silver is a pretty good medical droid and a pretty lousy admin technician.
Fault may be mine. I got
dear, come here. And she's like, now she
Mm.
sees you and she's pulling you close, and she's not even worried about it. She's paying no attention to 2 Point. She's pulling, if you let her, she's shorter. She's pulling your head down so she can look at your head and your cut. She's like, sit down. And she starts treating Gila.
I'm gonna while there's cover, can I try and hack it now?
Sure thing. Do a computer programming repair roll for me, please.
Okay. Four dice.
Dice are flying everywhere.
Oh, okay. 6, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14. 14.
It is not a secure network. There's no excessive security on this terminal. It's designed literally for someone to put a access card identifying themselves as a contractor into the system so that they can then have a record of a medical treatment. You're able to just simply pull up an existing record of another contractor and slot their name in for Sledge, and pull up another contractor and slot their name in for Gila so that there's a record of that. Did you poor dears miss your boat? It happens sometimes when you miss your boat, but there'll be another boat tomorrow, and tomorrow night, and tomorrow morning. What happened to him? And she's dressing Gila's wounds. But she nods her head and glances over at Sledge in this makeshift litter. She's like, that does not look comfortable. We should get him into a proper bed.
There's an accident down by the docks. A small explosion. He caught the worst end of it trying to protect me. And so here we are.
They're not as careful as they should be down there. And they aren't very kind to people that are late for the boat. I know. That's all right, dears. You'll get the next shift. She's like, let's get him to the back. Silver, let's get him up into the back. And so she calls the droid Silver, and the 2-1B droid gets together, and with Tanal's help, they lift up the litter and actually carry it into the back. There's a very small, simple, but reasonably appointed medical bay in the back. There's no back to tank, but there's 2 beds. Neither bed is filled right now. Monitoring equipment, cabinets with supplies and medicine and so forth. And it looks like there's another doorway to another area of the infirmary beyond that. The 2-1B droid helps you unstrap Sledge, get him all off. They peel off a little bit of his excess clothing that's either like torn or sweaty or damaged or whatever, and then they put him up into the proper bed so that they can continue the treatment, and immediately the 2-1B starts hooking him up to monitoring equipment. You can see Sledge's pulse. You don't know how to necessarily read medical equipment, but it looks a little weak. Doesn't appear to be very fast, and even starts hooking him up to some fluids and things. And the 2-1B droid starts listing off, speaking to the old woman, just in a matter of factly, like contusions, bruised, bleeding, shallow breathing, possible concussion, and he's just going through all the series of either known conditions or suspected conditions based on the initial assessment, and the droid is just doing its primary programming, which is to tend to the injured and doing that. She has brought Gila back as well, sat Gila on the other bed so she can just continue her tending. Has already cleaned and already dressed and covered the cut on Gila's forehead. And she's like, all right, what about the rest of you? Who got burned and who got cut? And she's not even looking at you. She's talking, and she's doing a cursory examination of Gila, making sure there's no other obvious wounds that she needs to attend to.
I think the rest of us are mostly fine. A couple of bruises, but nothing major.
Darling, and she motions to 2-Point. Can you drag that outside? And she gestures to the horribly ugly scrap metal litter that's sitting in the middle of the floor, getting in the way of everything.
Yes, I can do that. Oh,
You can just hook it with your cable and make a bit of a noise, but you just drag it outside.
perfect. Chuck it in an alley and head back in.
They weren't shooting at the oil canisters again, were they? That always makes such a mess down there. She's talking to Tanal even as she's dressing Gila.
I'm not sure. I didn't see exactly what happened. Is that?
There's not a fire, is there? They didn't have to call a fire brigade in, did they?
No, nothing like that. Nothing that drastic. Sorry, who likes to shoot at oil canisters? That doesn't sound very safe.
Well, you've got the civilian dock workers, and then occasionally you've got the board Imperials.
Ah, right.
It wasn't on the control. It wasn't on the secure dock, was it? Where they load the boats?
No, no, I don't think we were anywhere near there. But
I want you to make a con roll, Tanal, as you make small talk.
I'm lying
with the attendant about who was where doing what in the place that you've never been.
Never been here a day in my life. That's okay though. I'm real good at conning. And I exploded. Okay, 1 second.
Wow.
Okay, wait. Oh my god, that's a high number. Okay, that's 10, 15, 21, 24.
Okay. She's very chatty, and whatever you tell her or say or correct that didn't happen, she doesn't seem to blink an eye at it. She's very focused on tending to Gila. Gila, you start to feel better. Gila, you are no longer wounded. Your wounds have been tended, and so you no longer have -1d to your rolls. The fog is starting to lift off of your head, and your vision's a little bit better, and your equilibrium feels a little bit better. That you feel like you can walk a little bit. Except now, the unwellness from the crash is being replaced by the unwellness from being hungry. Very hungry. She steps away. She looks to Tanal. She kind of looks you over for a second, nods as you finish telling the story about the rambunctiousness on the docks and people being silly, which she seems to believe completely and seems to be quite a common occurrence. No different than field hands goofing off in the grain fields and causing an accident or spilling something or making a mess. A common story with a different environment each time, but the cast of characters is always the same. So she checks you over real quick, seeing that there's no obvious injury for you, and then she goes over and Silver has moved over and is now just working on the consoles, and she is doing her assessment of Sledge. He's going to need some rest. He's not going to be back right away. Will you tell his foreman that he's not going to be reporting for shift?
Yeah, don't worry about it. we'll take care of it. And thank you so much for your help. I don't think I caught your name.
Oh, yeah, I'm Grease.
Grease, nice to meet you. Amani. We'll go for a handshake.
She'll shake your hand. And then she goes back and starts peeling off more of Sledge's clothes without any concerns because she wants to get to the rest of his body to make sure she can assess anything else he's got going on. And she's even using, some snips and snipping off a few of the clothes rather than trying to move him too much and shake him up much. They've even got him already restrained a little bit in the bed so that he doesn't accidentally get up or move too quickly or anything as well. She's like, these are old, and she's like gently touching his face and his left side of his body where the burns are. This isn't recent.
No, that's pretty old. He didn't like to really talk about it, but
Okay.
yeah.
It's really too bad he didn't get better treatment for that at the time. The scarring wouldn't have been so bad.
Yeah, tell me about it. But there wasn't a lot of help where we were from, so.
Well, there won't be another boat until morning, so you should go and get some rest, or maybe get yourself something to eat before you have to report for the next shift.
Right, thank you. And if it wasn't completely obvious, we're a little bit new in town. Is there a place nearby here that we could maybe get some new clothes? Something a little bit warmer?
Oh, of course, dear. Of course. Yes. Just head down to the the stores, the general stores, for the settlement, and they've got a good mix of some trade-ins and hand-me-downs, and sometimes there's a little bit of new clothing, but as you can imagine, most of it here is recycled and repurposed. But they've got some good tailors and seamstresses around repairing old clothing, and they've got it's a good selection. You should have no trouble finding something.
Right.
The surplus, she calls it. Head to the surplus. They'll help you.
Surplus. Good. Thank you. Thank you. We really don't know what we would have done if you hadn't been here.
It's all right, dear. Check back on him in probably, I'd say, at least 2 days, and let's just hope that he regains consciousness without any complications, and I'll be able to give the foreman an update then.
Fantastic. Thank you. All right, guys. Everybody good?
But until she gives the foreman an update.
Yeah. Yeah, as we kind of make it outside. Yeah, so that could be a little bit of a problem. It looks like we have about 2 days until people realize that we are not supposed to be here. And I certainly hope one of us is there with him when he wakes up.
Well, let's get what we need, and do we want to figure out where the beacon is coming from? That feels like that's why we're here, right?
Right. There's somebody here who knew about what your moms were doing, then they might actually be able to help hide us, get us off world, something.
I just don't know how to find them without exposing ourselves.
Maybe if we're lucky, they'll find us.
True.
4 new faces in town.
I mean, I could always start leaving some tags around. They knew how the information was getting out. They might recognize some of my art.
We'll have to get you some more paint, yeah.
Yeah.
Well,
We don't
First-
have money.
no,
have
we
money.
don't. Oh,
You have money?
Actually, yeah. We're traveling. Okay. Yeah, I have 100 credits.
okay.
Oh, I was extremely concerned we were going to have to steal a bunch of stuff, but
I mean,
I mean,
we
we
still
can do that
could.
too, but
yeah.
Still could
I got a little bit of money.
trade any surplus that we have, make that stretch as far as it'll go.
Yeah.
Well, first things first, I'm freezing my ass off, so let's go warm up.
I'm fucking starving.
You're gonna head out, leave the infirmary. As you're about to do that and head back out into the streets, Vilra, you start to feel a cough coming on. That pain in your chest has come back, and you're feeling it's very tight. That tightness when you can't breathe very well, and your body instinctively coughs to try and get more oxygen into it. But it's a little bit uncontrollable right now, and you're starting to cough.
Like, oh, I just need like a second.
Are you okay?
You can hear Grease's voice in the back. Are you all right, dears? Does anybody else need anything? And that cough isn't going away. It's your chest is getting tighter. The whatever suppressant you used on the med pack on yourself has completely worn off, and the pain has returned. You're now wounded again until you are properly healed.
That one coming to bite me in the ass. Yeah, I think she turns to like say something and does the like I'm fine hand, like putting out, but the other hand is like grasping at her chest, but not
And
too hard because it hurts.
Grease is now coming back down the hallway to the entryway. She's coming towards you guys again. She's got a small little medical bag with her, and she's kind of just sorting through it idly. That doesn't sound very good.
Kind of leaning in very close to Vilra, so hopefully only she can hear. Sweet old lady, low risk. If somebody here is going to see your face, it might as well be her.
I could use some help.
She gets up to you, parts the crowd, gets to Vilra, and nobody stops her. She sits Vilra down in one of the chairs like she did with Gila at the beginning. And she's, okay, dear, let's have a look at you. And she starts to push back the hood. And then she's going to pull down the scarf unless you go otherwise. And she's going to ask you to open up the poncho so she can kind of get access to your chest. And she starts listening to your chest. She sees Vilra's full face, makes no reaction to that whatsoever, other than a gentle smile. She's got old hands, workers' hands, but they're gentle, and they're firm when they need to be firm, but they're gentle when they need to be gentle. She listens to your chest and she's like, oh, that doesn't sound good. That almost sounds like you've got some bruising in there. And then she immediately goes, she starts giving you a cough suppressant, starts giving you a little bit of pain medication, and it takes a few minutes. And she tends to Vilra, and then Vilra, after a few moments, the tightness of your chest eases. You can take that full breath again, which is a huge relief. The coughing stops. And she just sits there with you, and she holds your hand, and she just watches you and just waits. And she just says, that seems better.
Thank you. It does. I
She
appreciate it.
She gives you a little vial. She says, this is just a little bit of a suppressant. This is not a substitute. If the pain in the chest gets tight again, you come back and see me. But if you get a tickle, take a drink of this.
Okay, I will. Thank you. And Laura's kind of keeping her head down a little. Like, there's probably security cameras in here, so she's definitely. I mean, it's clear what race she is, but still, like, face kind of trying to play it off as shy, if that makes sense.
Okay. Silver walks out, goes to the counter, goes into the terminal, and starts checking. Contract cards confirmed. Contract cards confirmed. Need contract card for third patient. And he gestures with one of his stiff arms over in Vilra's direction.
They happened to drop theirs. They didn't think that they would have to be getting fixed. They thought it was just going to be me and the fella in the infirmary.
Well, we can get a new one when we go talk to the foreman, right, guys?
Absolutely,
Yeah.
dear. Of course. Silver, it's fine. Just mark it as a walk-in. And then
Thank you.
the droid touches the terminal, makes a couple of beeps, steps away, and then she stands up, helps Vilra stand up, make sure Vilra's okay on her feet, and then she pats your hand with hers, and then she says, okay, and then she turns around, she heads back to the infirmary in the back into Sledge.
Thank you. And then poncho back on. Make sure scarf back on.
Scarf around, hood back up, poncho on. Absolutely. You head back out into the street, back to the cold air, back to the blowing light snow, back to just kind of that stinging air, as it touches your skin. And Two Pint knows exactly where the surplus is, has the directory for the settlement, and can take you to the surplus. And think of every clothing supply surplus store you've walked into, racks and racks of just utilitarian clothes, trade-ins, hand-me-downs. There's some basic equipment here but 100 credits won't go very far. So if you decide you need something, you'd have to decide if you're going to bargain Tanal for that, or if you take 2 pints approach and say, well, or you just put things in your extra compartment and then you have them for later. But anybody who wants to change, you just have to tell me if you're still going to keep the armor on after you make a clothing change, and who's wearing that armor still.
I'm gonna change and get also a proper scarf, but like pretty basic everything, like the most generic of generic.
Mm-hmm. It's
Nothing
not
fancy.
It's not a problem. They've got enough of everything.
And then a legitimate scarf so that it's not, I'm so sorry we damaged your workwear for this. But yeah, like a real one to put on, and then maybe a balaclava would be weird, right? With my horn sticking out of it. Just the scarf is fine, I think, right?
Yeah.
And a jacket with a hood.
Okay, not a problem. And Gila and Tanal, do you guys trade up?
Yeah. I'm gonna go with like a basic thermal with like overalls. Get some gloves and a pair of goggles. And I'm dead set on keeping the jacket that's been given to me. So.
Okay.
I think that Tanal will kind of go for something pretty similar, like pretty basic, that'll just kind of do the job, keep her warm, give her still a pretty decent range of motion. And I think she has like a moment as she is kind of like switching all this stuff out and, you know, kind of feels like she should leave the armor behind because it's such a dead giveaway. But I think that without really thinking about it, she kind of just like reattaches everything. So she still has it.
You bet. Some of it you can hide under a larger jacket, so you could wear the armor and then put a larger size jacket over top, so it'd be a bit bulky on you, but it would allow you to conceal some of the armor that you're wearing, the pauldron, nothing to be done about that. Yeah. But the other stuff you can do, absolutely. And same with Gila. Gila can put a big coat or a big poncho over top of some of the armor. Is Gila or Vilwer wearing the other set of armor?
My understanding, I'm wearing the other set of armor. I think I'm only wearing like a chest piece.
Yeah, it's just piecemeal. It's the same stats, +1d to physical, +2 to energy attacks. But yes, it's just making sure that we have that. So, but you are wearing it. So, but you can certainly cover up the smaller pieces, so that it's just not quite so obvious unless someone was standing right next to you and could see you clearly.
I still have my tool belt. I do want to say that.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And I kept my press pass.
Absolutely. All of that, but they don't sell food here. It's 50 credits for the 3 of you to get fully resuited up with all new clothes, and you'll be left with 50 credits in your pocket.
Okay, pass that over and reach into my bag, and I give each of you. I had some freeze-dried food that I got off of the ship. It's not much. We'll feed us for now until we can figure out what to do.
Yeah, it's better than nothing. Do they sell paint here?
No. Some very basic tools, but nothing, no supplies that way.
Do they sell oil, mineral oil in particular?
How much mineral oil are you talking about?
Maybe like 24 ounces.
Yeah, they probably would have some basic stuff like that. Yeah, lubricants and things. Yeah.
And any colored chalk.
Chalk can be found here. It's a surplus store, absolutely.
Okay, then I will take both of those things.
There you go. Okay.
Where, based on the map, is like a close inn or something similar, if there is one?
There are some apartments for rent that you've got up on the directory. There are some apartments that seem to be indicated as contractor apartments, so they don't appear to be for rent so much as they appear to be assigned to contract workers. And then in that same general area, sort of in the center of town, close to the infirmary, close to the surplus store, there is also a cantina as well. But it doesn't appear to have lodging, but it is in the same area.
I mean, if we need contract cards to get things around here, if I could get my hands on at least one of them, kind of see what the makeup is like.
Good.
It's a good chance I can make a couple more.
Could
good.
accidentally procure some from the cantina patrons.
That could be.
Yep. All that and a warm drink. Sounds like the place to go.
Right. And if we don't have any luck finding a cart, I think we could, there are a couple apartments that are for rent and might not have anyone in them that we could maybe break into and hide out in. We run the risk of someone renting it, but might be an option if we can't get in somewhere else and need to get out of the cold.
I guess we're gonna drink alcohol and steal? I miss home.
Yeah. I think we deserve that.
Right, this way.
Not far down the street. It is closer to the brightly lit landing pad, which has a bunch of activity. There's a little bit of security fencing that you can see now at this distance from that. And you can see 2 Imperial stormtroopers stationed just outside the fencing at the entrance to the landing pad. There still appears to be a ship at that landing pad that you saw from the hilltop when you first got outside. It does not appear to be Imperial or military in design, so it could be an independent freighter of some type. And then 2 Pint shows you where the canteen is, and you can see the signage, a bit of neon lighting outside, and you can hear a little bit of revelry, even at this early hour of the morning. From inside, as the door slides open and somebody exits and walks down the street, you hear the sound of music briefly before it shuts again.
Is it jizz? Are they playing jizz?
Of course they're playing jizz. And as you get close enough, those of you with your olfactory senses can smell food being cooked in a kitchen. And when you think about when you haven't had a hot meal in a week because you've been traveling and you've lived off prepackaged meals, what an actual real smelling kitchen, fresh smelling kitchen does as the stomach rumbles kick in hard.
Gila cries, hit with an overwhelming sense of homesickness.
Maybe we shouldn't go in.
We're here.
We
We're
could-
already in danger.
let's party.
We could always get you a straw so you could kind of put it under your scarf and you won't have to take it off or something.
Yeah, I was gonna say because I won't be able to eat or drink anything because.
Get you soup. You can just slurp up.
Sloop. You know I love a good sloop.
Let's get a table.
You go on in. You go on inside. The music's playing. The bar is sparsely populated, but there are patrons even at this hour. There is both a organic bartender and a droid behind the counter. And there's a few scattered tables, and every table has 1 or 2 people sitting at it. There is a table closer to the stage. There's not a live band playing right now. This is just piped in music that you're hearing. But there is a larger table closer to the stage that appears to be empty at the moment. More chairs than you need, but you could all just curl up there if you want to stay together. Otherwise, you'd have to try and find a couple of tables near each other, but that's not as easy.
I think we can all go sit together.
Okay. Everybody roll perception.
Terrifying sentence.
I exploded.
Me too.
18.
I rolled a 1 on my wild die,
No.
Oh no.
and it's a 9 total.
We love plot.
I got got a 12 total.
I got a 21.
Okay. Gila and Tanal, you see that a few of the locals give you some odd looks as you guys sit down. Nobody paid attention to you too much when you came in. People looked over their shoulder at you just to see who arrived. As you sit down at the table, though, a few people give you some looks. Vilra doesn't see any of it because she is so focused on just keeping herself kind of, unnoticed. So she just sits in the first chair nearby, so she can just sit down and do it. And 2 Pint, you don't pay any attention to the organics because that's organic business. Because what you see, in addition to the organic bartender and the droid bartender behind, on the far wall across the room for you is a protocol droid torso attached to a stand, a base. So there's no legs, no locomotion. But the protocol droid upper torso is there, and there's some signage above, translation services. And the droid appears to have power, and he's just kind of drooping and just kind of hanging down. But there's a protocol droid they've got mounted to the floor and on the far side of the bar.
Guys, I think we have to steal this droid, and it has to be my best friend. Based off nothing except vibes. We're stealing this droid.
A good call. It's a solid decision. I think that's really good for our low profile.
I agree.
So Tanal and Gila, you get some odd looks, but nobody says anything to you. Nobody makes a fuss about it, but they make note of the fact that you've come and you've sat down at the table. The droid comes out from behind the bar, comes over, and will take some orders from you. And so there's a basic menu. 2 Pint can even plug in and pull it up on the terminal in front, but you can just key it up as well yourselves. It's a typical bar/diner fare. Alcoholic drinks, a little bit of non-alcoholic, basic fare. You can feed and water everybody. It's going to use up pretty much the last of your credits if you give everybody a full meal, or you can share something and keep a few scant credits in your pocket as you choose.
I think Gila, feeling like we've been through a lot right now, what she really wants is a full meal, so she's just going to part her way with the last of her credits.
You bet. And that gets everybody a drink and a meal and a bowl of sloop and whatever else you might need. You bet. Droid takes the order and steps away and comes back. The music's playing. People are going back to their business. The smell of the kitchen is amazing as it fills the room. It's warm in here. Those of you that choose to could peel back a couple layers if you want, or just keep everything on to keep everything hidden. But it's the first time you've been warm, not with recycled air and not with the constant tinning and whirring and vibrations of being in a ship. And so it's almost relaxing for a moment as you settle in. Gila, what are you thinking and what are you feeling right now?
I think Gila's kind of tucked her legs up into the chair and is kind of has her data pad out, kind of looking at home as the realization of kind of where they are now. They're no longer on Salish. This is the furthest they've ever been from home. What happens now? Are we going to be safe? Am I going to be okay? And just kind of like burying her between looking at that and just burying their face into like Tanal's jacket, kind of the last trace of something that smells like home. And just sort of like sadly waiting for like the food to come and just sort of looking through pictures of like when they were kids, when they went on their little adventure with, when they crashed that speeder into the side of the fence, and missing when that was the peak of danger.
Tanal, what are you thinking and feeling right now?
I think that Tanal is just feeling very physically exhausted from dragging sledge like 3 kilometers. I think that there's a little bit of like satisfaction in it, in the same way that she would get that kind of like bone tired feeling when she finally went to bed after like a long day. working out on the ranch of just like, I did my job. Every creature that was in my care made it back in one piece. So now I get to just relax, and then tomorrow we do it all again.
Because the work on the farm never stops.
Mm-hmm.
There's no off days at the farm.
Nope.
Philra, what are you thinking and feeling?
I think Vilra is relieved that her friends are okay. No one is dying. No one was near death, but is very anxious because they're having this moment of reprieve, and she knows it's not going to last. Something's going to happen. They're going to have to put out another fire. They're going to have to keep up this, they have to figure out how to fake their way through this. And then what do we do? Do we stay here? Do we try and leave somehow? I think it's a lot of just like hackles are raised, kind of just waiting for that shoe to drop. And what is the plan? What do we even do? Like, what? Cool, we've got food, but what next? And it's just sort of waiting for the next thing to happen.
The next thing that happens is that your food and drinks are brought out, and they are very, very satisfying.
That's good. Yeah, very much hackles raised. I think to the point where food gets brought and she's a little jumpy about it. She's kind of scared. I would say mostly anxious.
And sometimes really you're not sure if it's your anxiety that you feel or it's Gila's. Because sometimes you feel like you can feel Gila's anxiety as well, but then you're not sure if it's yours or not. And then you can feel that momentary relief as the food comes, even though you're concerned about that there's going to be a catch. But then there's that satisfaction. But is that your satisfaction, or is that Tanal's satisfaction that you're feeling? Because sometimes you feel like you can feel that from her as well. And so sometimes you don't know if what you're feeling is real, or if what you're feeling is what the others are. And the food is delicious. And Tanal, Gila has her appetite back. See, the old lady's help seems to have made a difference, and she certainly seems to be eating the meal, which seems to be a good sign. Anybody have anything they want to say to each other?
Now,
Yeah.
thank you
For what?
for saving me, for catching me.
Yeah. Of course, I wasn't just gonna let you, fly around in the back like a piece of unsecured cargo.
Oh,
2 point, that means you're the unsecured cargo.
Sorry.
I was gonna say that Sledge was the unsecured
Sledge was the
cargo.
unsecured cargo, for real.
It's nice to know that even out here I can rely on you.
Yeah. Always.
Do I see this?
You see and hear it all, unless they're choosing to speak very quietly to each other.
Okay.
No.
Good. 2 Pint is immediately bored with them talking and eating, and it's getting increasingly curious about the droid in the corner.
You bet.
Maybe go wander over and see what's going on there.
Yeah, you bet. It's a Cybot Galactica protocol droid. It's a 3PO unit with a torso attached to a stand that allows it to swivel somewhat. It seems it has limited range of motion. Has power to the base, so it's got power to it. It's got the arms and the head and everything else. And there's signage saying translation services, and then there is a series of credit costs based on either the amount of time you need to speak to the droid. It'll give you so much time, or if there is like a translation, like a data translation, and you can input a bulk amount of data for a price, and it'll translate the data for you. And the droid doesn't appear to be active, like doesn't appear to be responding to you, but there is a terminal with a card slot for cards to go in, and then of course a scomp link as well. So it appears that's how you're going to activate it, is by making the payment, and that's going to start the reactivate the droid's protocols.
Can I try and hack in like I did in the medical hospital?
Sure. You can roll in with your scomp link. It's not very busy in the bar right now. Nobody seems to be paying it too much mind. Go ahead and roll your computer program repair.
And explode. So that's 6, 10, 15, 17.
Okay.
17 plus 6 is 23.
Yeah, you're into the system. I'm going to roll a moderate difficulty perception check for both the droid, the bartender droid, and the bartender to see if they notice you accessing the terminal.
Cool. Fine.
Your dome swivels around to watch them for a second, and they are serving drinks and cleaning and gathering trays. The droids are bringing a big tray of drinks back, like of empty drink vessels back, and they're not paying you any mind. You're into the routines now. You've accessed the terminal, and you're into the translation services. You can access the translation services here without having to pay, you just triggering things. Or if you want, there's a secondary access for the droids programming, which you'll switch to droid programming repair if you want to access the droid systems directly, not the terminal, but the droid itself. If you want to activate the droid, do anything with the droid, just find out information about the droid. There'll be a separate role, but you can, now that you're in here, you can get access to the droid systems if you want to access the droid itself without activating it and waking it up.
I definitely want to access droid systems.
Roll your droid programming repair for me.
That's different than computer?
Yes, it's under technical.
That's just my technical. Okay.
Yeah.
So that is again not explode, but that's 3 5s and a 3, so 15 plus 3 is 18 plus 1 is 19.
Fair enough. You're going to find out all sorts of information about the systems. You've got a record of previous translation services and recent history that it's kept in its memory banks. And you find out, and you're going to tell us in a moment, the droid's designation. What is this 3PO unit's name? And you're going to decide that in a moment. But you'll decide it in a moment because you are so fixated on learning about this protocol droid that they've mounted to the 4 base to have it do translation services. And because you're a droid 2-pint, you don't notice cold air. And you don't notice cold air when the door opens, so you wouldn't pay any mind to that because it's organic business. And so you don't notice 2-pint when 2 Imperial snowtroopers enter the cantina because the droid is closer to the door and the group sitting on the far side, followed by 2 Imperial snowtroopers that enter the cantina. So now there's 4 snowtroopers, followed by an Imperial officer who enters the cantina.
Hi. Question, do I notice this?
You 3 are going to roll your perception because you're having a meal and Tanal and Gila are having a moment.
Okay. I was going to do this earlier, but I was going to ask if there are any Imperials here before I did this. Because I'd like to use danger sense.
Okay.
Because I'm also very anxious and paranoid. I can read out the effect if people would like.
Yeah, you should. You should
sure.
share with everybody so they understand what you're doing and why.
Danger sense. The effect is that danger sense allows. It's going to say Jedi, but it's me. Danger sense allows a Jedi to extend his senses around himself like a protective sensors, creating an early warning system for as long as the power remains in effect. When this power is used, the Jedi detects any attacks the round before they are made. This gives the Jedi a round to decide how to react to the danger. There's more to it, but I think that's the gist. And I think the minute that happened, it's just like, like, oh God. Everything sort of
And I'm just pulling
tenses.
it up myself as a reminder.
It is on page 48. Of the-
Yeah. Gotcha. So just to be clear, right? So this is something that will affect in combat rounds. It won't necessarily alert you to just a menacing figure that comes into your vicinity. It won't trip off
No.
of that.
But if they
But
do
you can
attack,
have it up 100%.
Yeah.
100%. So you've got that up and running. So yeah, you were tense before. You maybe enjoyed your sleep for a few moments, but not long enough to stop being tense. And so you're tense. And Tanal and Gelis. But all three of you can roll your perceptions in response to these guys entering the cantina.
Got a 10.
14.
10 total. No ones or explosions, though.
You're very in tune with what your friends are feeling right now, Vilra. So you're somewhat focused on their faces and just while you're being a quiet observer, not trying to interrupt, but at the same time, just kind of taking in that. And Tanal is very focused on Gila's face in this conversation that they're having, but that's because Tanal's back is to the room, and so she doesn't see the door as it opens. Just as Two Pint doesn't feel the door as it opens because Two Pint doesn't pay any mind to the cold air that blows in. But Gila on the other side of the table looks away from Tanal. And Tanal, you with your roll, you don't see the Imperials, but you see your friend's face. As 4 Imperial snowtroopers and an Imperial officer enter. And they immediately start walking towards the table. And so, Gila, you see this.
I think Gila is going to try to stand up, kind of smile at Tanal, and is going to walk towards the stormtroopers. Excuse me, fellas, we're new to town. We just kind of came in for work. I was wondering if you could direct us to where the
The snowtroopers brush right past Gila and approach the table. So they just part around you and kind of jostle you as they go past. They don't do anything to you, but they bypass you and go directly to the table. And the Imperial officer follows them.
going to walk towards Two Pint, having been ignored, and be like, "We have trouble."
Huh? What?
I think that
You pull yourself back out of the droid's programming, Two Pint. Now you're back around in your surroundings again, and now you can see exactly what you see. Tanal, Vilra, 4 Imperial snowtroopers approach the table and stand there, and then an Imperial officer approaches up with them and just looks at you without saying anything.
I think that Tanal kind of like leans an arm back on the chair a little bit, like angling herself towards them and also a little bit in front of Vilra. Can I help you, gentlemen?
Vilra, do you do anything?
I think she is trying to keep her face neutral. If she saw how they reacted to Gila, she would have just that angers her. But for the most part, it's just remain neutral, remain calm. Nothing has happened so far.
And nothing's triggered your danger sense. No one's about to attack you, at least in this moment.
Mm-hmm.
The officer looks at Tanal, and so now he's got a good look at you and is standing right in front of you. And he just kind of looks at you with that quizzical, haughty, superior kind of, why are you even talking to me look. The bartender, the organic bartender, has arrived, and he's like, "Captain, I'm so sorry. You know what it's like with the new arrivals. They simply don't know. Please come with me. We'll bring your food. We'll set you up at this table right over here." And he starts to pick up your bowls and your drinks, and the droid has come over with a tray to do the same thing. And he's going to try, unless Tanal or Vilra do anything differently, to move you off the table.
There's just a fraction of a second where Tanal's her rifle hand flexes and tightens just a bit, and she lets it go, takes a breath, and matches this guy's confused face with not like a haughty or mean confused face, but just like genuine puzzlement. Oh, sorry, we didn't know. This is like your table. We can scoot.
Yeah, Vilra stands and like does the whole like doesn't say anything but gives like sorry.
Vilra, you can feel for a moment that heat off of Tanal. It's palpable. You can feel that. You felt it before.
And I think a gentle hand comes onto Tanal's back.
The
from me,
Imperials
like,
don't move. They expect you to move around them unless you choose to force your way through them. And the bartender takes you over and he sets you up at a table sort of a little ways away, so there's a bit of a distance, and gets all the drinks and bowls and everything set back up again. Gila's now over with 2 pints, standing in front of the protocol droid at the wall, watching this all happening. The captain takes off his cap, pulls out the chair, brushes at it slightly, bit of snow and dirt and whatever else might have been on your clothing, puts the cap on the table and sits down. And the 4 Imperial snowtroopers pull out chairs and they sit down at the table that's got the most number of chairs in the place, and it's closest to the band and it's close to the bar. The Imperial snowtroopers take off their helmets, place them on the table, take their blaster rifles, got them holstered at the side, and they sit, and the bartender with all speed hustles back over to the table and starts to take their orders. And they don't even look back at you.
When we came in, or based on the way they look, are these the 2 that were standing guard at the port?
Would you be able to tell 2 Imperial snowtroopers apart from each other at a distance?
I think Gila's a pretty observant young lady as a journalist.
No, you don't think so. They were still standing when you crossed from the surplus to the cantina. They were still on duty down there. You don't expect that they probably hustled down here to do this. So this could just be 4 more troopers and an Imperial captain who have emerged from somewhere and have come to the cantina.
Do they have like some sort of like serial number or something on their uniform?
No, they would have their own markings, but a lot of it would be like their tattoos and things that they would have on their arms and things with their stormtroopers designation. But the armor itself won't have any identifying markings on it.
Okay.
Oh, if I got assigned to this frozen rock, I'd be pissed off too.
I mean, yeah, I kind of get it, but also like, God, it's hard to not like.
Big fish, small pond.
Yeah. Right.
There's back
Does
Sit back down.
Does the
Yeah.
captain have like his name on his jacket or anything?
No, they don't. They don't have that unless they choose to tell you with that authoritative voice who they are. But no, until you speak to them, you won't know his name.
Okay. I do just kind of want to get a mental image of his face.
The captain's bars, which are more prominent than just the lieutenant's bars that you had seen before, those are prominent, and anybody that's spent even a moment looking at basic Imperial naval rankings understand that those are captain's bars. But the bartenders called him captain, so it cleared it up anyway for you right away.
On my way to walking back to the table, but I have slipped and dropped my audio recording device underneath the table.
You can absolutely try, and I think we're going to call that. I can't remember if there is a sleight of hand under perception or not. So 1 second while we double check that. Pickpocket. Pickpocket is a skill, and is pickpocket a physical skill, or is it under
Dexterity skill.
It's a dexterity skill. Thank you so much. That's what we're going to use. We're going to call pickpocket our sleight of hand stand-in. Perfect.
Yep.
So if you want to still do that, because it's going to be dexterity based, depending on how you feel about Gila's dexterity, but that's your base that you would use as your dexterity attribute if you obviously don't have any advancement in pickpocket.
A little reckless, I'll do it.
So there is, so what it is, it's going to be an opposed roll against the perception roll of the person that's noticing it. So what we'll do is we'll say that you could have done that while you were surrounded by all the troopers who just brushed right past you. So we're going to use the troopers' perception and not the captain's. So their perception is not going to be quite as good. And there is just some modifiers based on the size of the crowd and what you're trying to do, but we're just going to call this an opposed roll to see if they notice that you drop some tech. So I'm going to roll the Imperial Snowtrooper's perception, and you're going to roll your pickpocket as a stand-in for sleight of hand.
Explode. That's math. That's a 19.
So Gila just rolled a 19, including her wild die that exploded, and I just rolled my 2D perception, and my wild die exploded. And it did not explode a second time, and so I do not beat your 19, and so yes, you're able to drop your listening device under the table, completely unnoticed.
Sorry.
And you rejoin the others. Do you just finish your meal and stay calm?
I think that Tanal is gripping her spoon with a little bit more force than
Sure.
she was before.
Sure.
But I think so. I think she kind of just breathes through it and is going to hold on to her temper for now.
You do that. 2 Pint, do you come back over for the moment? Do you rejoin the others, given that they had to move tables and now there's Imperials in the cantina?
I feel like 2 Pint would stay and be like, okay, no one's firing any weapons. We're probably okay. I want to have a friend. So it's going to dive back into this droid.
You do that. You've already got access. I'm not going to make you roll again. You know how to get access into the droid's internal things, and we'll come back to some interesting information further. Your protocol droid, including their designation, which you're going to decide and tell us about a little later. As you're finishing your meals, as Gila has a little boost of confidence and satisfaction that she sort of pulled a fast one and now has access to audio that's recording everything that's happening in the cantina that she can retrieve later with her devices. And as Tanal is wrestling with her conscience about fighting back against, bullies, not just oppression, but even just bullies in a bar, versus keeping her friends safe and knowing that. And as Vilra has remained undetected, and no one paid any mind to the poncho-wearing person sitting there with their sloop. And Vilra, you feel it. You feel the exact same feeling you felt standing in the alley in the homesteads of West Crag, outside your garage, when you felt someone standing inside before you even saw them. You just have that exact same feeling. That we can call it a chill up your spine, we can call it the hairs on your arms standing up, but you feel it. You feel them.
Them.
You feel someone else, someone not at your table. The same way you could feel Auntie Vima before she stepped into view. You knew she was there before she was there.
Okay. I have more powers. I do think I have something for this that I chose before this started. Is it life detection? Okay, so I think it is life detection. Page 49. This power allows Jedi to detect live sentient beings who might otherwise remain hidden from their normal senses. When the power is activated, the Jedi knows the location of all sentients within 10 meters if the power is kept up. And the Jedi may know whenever a sentient approaches within 10 meters of them or vice versa.
Okay.
Or I guess it might be life sense? Oh, that's a specific person.
Is a specific person that you have to know who it is you're looking for. Life detection is what you're doing? Yeah?
Yeah.
Okay.
So I'll switch to life detection.
Okay. Roll your sense.
which is just 1d. So it's a 3.
Okay.
And I don't add anything to that. It's just
Just your sense skill. Exactly.
okay.
Just your sense force power. You feel it. You feel them. You're starting to feel like you can sense the presence of everybody in the canteen around you, not just because you can see them, not just because you hear them, but because you can feel them. And it's almost maybe a bit disconcerting because you're getting the awareness of everybody seen and unseen, somebody walking past you on the street, and it's difficult to sort through all that information and to determine what something is. But all the rest of you can roll perception, including 2 Pint.
I think also everyone would see Vilra kind of straighten a lot more. Like
the body language changes.
The body language has changed it, like very stiff looking, does not have any utensils in hand, nothing. And it's just like weirdly still.
Roll an 8.
13.
I also rolled an 8.
Okay. 2 Pints making friends. Tanal is very focused on Vilra because Vilra's body language has changed. Tanal always picks up on that right away. And Gila, the ever-observant reporter, keeping tabs on people and places around her. As Vilra stiffens, Gila catches movement and sees someone at the bar stiffen. Gila sees that person at the bar look directly at Vilra, stands up, and immediately walks out of the cantina. Like, immediately.
Vilra, are you okay?
No. So I can feel that thing that makes that I know something. I don't know what it is, but it's
You know something and you don't know.
Whatever you were doing, it affected the person that just walked out of the bar.
She gets up and starts walking out of the bar.
Villar's on the move.
Shit. Okay. Immediately. Yeah. Yes.
Yeah.
Slurps of soup. Immediately hightails it after her.
Okay. Someone's gonna have to grab 2 Pint. 2 Pint is not paying attention.
2 Pint, come on, please.
And you're gonna get unplugged again, 2 Pint, before you can finish your interaction.
I'm so sorry, 2 Pint.
It's okay. Life comes at you fast.
You guys exit the cantina. No one pays any mind. Nobody's concerned that you just suddenly drain your drink and go. You're back out into the cold. Not nearly as comforting as the cantina. The music's muted. Your bellies are warm and full, but you're back out in the cold and the blistering snow. And Gila, you can see it, and you can point to Vilra. An individual walking quickly away from the spaceport, back into the settlement, down the road, back in the direction you came. And they're walking pretty briskly. They're not as meandering as everyone else has kind of been on their way to wherever they had to go.
Vilra's power walking in that direction.
Okay.
Doesn't want to run, but is ready to if they start running.
Hey, Tanal, she's just walking. She's walking after whoever this person is.
Kind of catches up. Right. So what exactly do you know that you don't know how you know about this person, and why
I get
are
these
you
like
chasing somebody in the middle of the street?
It's like a feeling that like goes through my whole body, and it's just and they have it too. They have it too. I don't know what this is, but it's important.
Okay. I can't
The
say
person
I
ducks off the
understand,
street
but
and
they're-
goes into a smaller side street.
Yep,
But that's
follows.
really deeply suspicious. All right. Yeah.
Okay. You go down. You get to, you
you
get
got
to
map?
you get to the mouth of the side street, almost an alley. You see them at the end, and then they turn around another corner down the next side as well. And they must have moved pretty quickly the moment they got off the main street because they're already down at the other end of it now. So you can either keep your pace or you're going to have to run if you're going to keep up with them now.
I'm gonna run.
I'm breaking to a run. Yeah.
Okay, you all break into a run. If you're running in any sort of order, who's first, who's second? Not everybody maybe is at the same pace, but if there's any positioning that is important, let me know now.
I like to. I think I'm first. Like Vilra is
Okay.
very motivated to understand what's happening and what this really means and why they know. Yeah.
Okay.
I think Tanal's probably following very closely.
Keeping pace with Vilbra. And then
Mhm.
Gila and Two Pint staying together and just a little bit further back.
Yeah.
Okay. Okay. You get to the end, you hang the right into the deeper into the alleys between the homesteads. Vilra, you get there first. Tanal's right on your heels. You sprinted down to make up the ground because you could see where they'd gone. Turn the corner. There's a long alleyway. There's not another exit until you get down to the next T junction. The person's gone.
Oh.
I just want to talk. She says that loud enough that if people were, nearby. I don't know what to do.
Do you keep going down the alley in the direction they went, or do you stay
Can
put
I
where
look
you
at the
are?
roof? I'm looking up. I'm looking at the rooftops. I'm
Okay.
like,
Okay. Yeah, for sure. You don't
I-
see anybody up there. You see a few
Okay.
antennas, communication
Mhm.
arrays, basic home communication systems. Nothing too unusual or anything up there, but nobody peering over the edge. Nobody scrambling
Okay.
up there.
Is there any snow on the ground?
Yes.
Is there
There's
any
always
tracks?
a light dusting of snow. Yes, the tracks go down. Roll your perception to see what you pick up.
That is 16.
The tracks go halfway down the alley, Gila, and then they don't continue the rest of the way.
Anything about me?
Are there any doors nearby?
No.
Windows?
Air vents. There's venting gas and heat and stuff coming out from some vents in the alleyway.
Can Two Pint pull up like the map of the town in his brain and see if anything looks weird or not
No,
like it
this-
should be based on the map?
Yeah, you absolutely can. And this is you're just deep into the homesteads right now. This is just a mix of the homesteads and a few of the commercial buildings. You're halfway between the sort of the main road of sort of somber and then the bay where the docks and such are. But this is just this is just mostly just homesteads and probably some storage bays and such.
Are there
There's
any
no Oh, go ahead.
Are there any terminals to
Not down
Scomp
here,
into?
no.
Okay.
No, you'd have to go closer to the main road again to start finding terminals again.
Is there anything
Can we
like
do the thing?
disturbed or like? Because I remember, I think she turns to everyone and goes, "You know how I knew that fountain was a thing to go underground?
right.
This is that feeling."
So the ground is hard ground. It's not permacrete. It's not manufactured. It's just the rough shoreline of the bay. That's been smoothed over time as it's been built on, as the settlement's been built, which is covered in light dusting of snow. But there's no artificial materials, hatches, walls, anything like that. The buildings themselves are just a mix of permacrete and other materials, and they're just there. No other
Okay.
hatches. You're not drawn to anything. There's nothing that's flagging you or getting your attention like the fountain did.
Can I use life sense this time? Because I know who I'm looking for.
Yeah, I think the difficulty is going to be a little higher because you don't know specifics, but let's double check that super fast
Yeah,
because
it's
that's a
very
really
easy, but it's modified by proximity and relationship.
Yeah, okay, so that the relationship's going to be the one. Roll your life sense. It's going to be your wild die, and if it explodes, it explodes.
Come on, explosion. The 3 again.
It's like your instinct is there. You know that if you knew what you were doing, you could do this, but you don't.
Yeah.
You don't know how to focus in on it yet. You know that if you thought about Tanal or Gila, you could probably find them in a crowd nearby. You think you could do that now,
Mhm.
but someone like this, you just don't know.
It just. Frick. Sorry.
Two
Got a
Pint,
lead though.
Two Pint, and Gila, roll your perceptions, please. Tanal, you two.
Six.
Tanal, you two.
Oh.
Gila, what did you get?
12.
12 and 6, 2 Pint? Okay.
Yeah.
The 9.
Yeah. Gila, you feel the presence behind you a moment before you hear the sound of the blaster being drawn out of a holster. And there's a figure standing behind you now. They're slightly illuminated by a little bit of overhead lighting from some of the buildings and such nearby, but the alley itself is pretty dark. Most of you are sort of in semi-darkness, illuminated by just the ambient light of the alleyways. The person standing there, they're kind of in silhouette behind you. They've got a blaster. The blaster's pointed at Gila.
No.
Is this the same person that Gila saw leave?
Yeah, it is.
Okay, I think Vilra gently steps forward. Like, very gently. Like, it's telegraphing all moves, so it's not like sudden, nothing. And kind of, I just wanted to talk.
He's like, it's a human male. He's like, take this off.
Yeah, there's a gun pointed at her, so she pulls the scarf down.
I told you I wasn't leaving. I told you I was going to stay.
I've never spoken to you before.
Yuna, why did you come back?
I think
And
at that, she just... Oh,
And as he says your mother's name, as he sees parts of your features step into the light, but he doesn't get a good look at you, and he sees the Iktochi horns,
mhm.
and he says your name, that's where we're going to stop Quadrilateral Frostfall. I've been Jason Collins, your game master. It's been my privilege to be here with you. You can find all of my writing and tabletop role-playing game work and the links to the first series of Quadrilateral on my link tree at digital_Collins. Barnaby, where can they find you?
Hey everybody, my name is Barnaby. You can find me at that's_Barnaby all over the internet. I make TTRPG illustrations. I also participate in things like this, and yeah, I'm glad to be here.
Mara?
You can find me on the internet at College of Lore Dropout or Lore Dropout, depending on the social media site. You can also find me playing games in another different space over on Starlight Tales.
Diana.
Hi, I'm Diana. You can find me most places on the internet at Sapphic Stregonona or just Sapphic Strega, or also over on Starlight Tales, causing shenanigans with my good buddy Mara.
May.
Hi, I'm May. You can find me having an emotional meltdown. I mean, on the internet as Maybe Mayhem. You can also find me on other TTRPGs as they come along. Just check out my socials for that, or on my podcast called Socially Plagued.
Thank you, everybody, for joining us for this first episode of Quadrilateral Frostfall. We hope we will see you again soon for the next one coming up. I know that I will see everybody here in the room for that next one. We wish all of our spacers and scoundrels safe skies.